All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're back here for another Investors Performance Group meeting. Thank you to everyone who's joining us online as well. Quick show of hands, how many of you guys are here for the very first time? Excellent. We've got 3 of you guys. Welcome. It is a small crowd tonight, and obviously, I'm thinking we're competing against the Vancouver Canucks team. Now, we're not actually competing on the ice against them, thank God, but we're competing just for attention. So, thank you guys for spending the time coming out here. I'm going to keep an eye on the scores for you guys, so I can update you guys throughout, and that way you guys can focus on the great speakers that we have tonight. Because we've got a great lineup. We're pretty excited about it. So. Starting things off, the Investors Performance Group is brought to you by the Kelly Fry team. That is our team. We are a full-service real estate team focused on helping you build your portfolio, build your wealth in real estate, and we do that by partnering ourselves with amazing vendors such as the ones you're going to hear tonight, as well as we've got the accountants, the lawyers, the home inspectors, everything you need to be able to start your portfolios and build your wealth. And tonight, our sponsor, we're very thankful for because he brought us he helped basically pay for all of this food tonight, is Tim Lyon. Tim, give him a round of applause. So he helped provide all the amazing food that we have, drinks. So we got lots because obviously, like I said, smaller crowd today, but feel free, eat lots, take some home with you guys. There's going to be lots to go around. All right, that being said, here is our agenda for tonight. First and foremost, we're going to be kicking it off with our first speaker, Harman Singh from Paragon Roofing. Bit of a different style today because we thought it's good to hear some maintenance. So what's going on with your property? How do you guys actually maintain your properties to maximize your returns on your investments? We have another Airbnb update with Kelly Fry. We've got our investor spotlight with our very own Mike Manuela tonight. We're really excited to have you guys up on stage. For those who've been around IPG for a while, like you guys have been here from almost day one with me, right? So, and they rarely, day one, and they, maybe a handful of meetings that they've missed over the last 10 years. No, I wasn't. Like, we're going on 10 years, together with that. So, we're really excited to have them up and share their story. Tales from the Trenches, Season 8, Episode 5. I am breaking my silence and talking about Edmonton. I know. We're going to do the market update. And again, we've got our keynote speaker and our sponsor tonight, Tim Lyon. And he's going to be talking about reverse mortgages, something that, honestly, Kelly and I realize we really don't even know a lot ourselves about. So this is going to be a great presentation to learn. Everyone might not apply to you directly right now, but it might apply to somebody that you know. And so understanding this information, you can help your family and friends out. And then again, we're going to go through some hot deals and wrap things up for the night. So enough about me, enough hearing from me. Let's bring out our first speaker, but just keep in mind, we would love to see some engagement. So grab your phones out. Don't be afraid to take photos, take videos, post it to your social media on Facebook, Instagram. Just tag the Kelly Fry team because we love to see it. And let's kick things off. So Harman, out from Paragon Roofing. So Harman is the owner of Paragon Roofing. Prides himself and his team on providing clients with exceptional service, quality workmanship, and attention to detail. His commitment to excellence and customer satisfaction has earned Paragon Roofing a reputation as one of Vancouver's most trusted roofing companies. So without further ado, I'm going to give you this here. If you hit that button, that'll advance your slides, and I'll get you to clip that on somehow so everyone online can hear you. And round of applause.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me. I haven't done this since, university, so bear with me. So roof maintenance and replacement 101. People don't think about roofs until it usually leaks. So here's to thinking about them before. We already went through that, so we'll skip that part. Signs your roofs need replacing. Usually you'll see curled shingles, especially with cedar shakes, it's easy to spot. Missing shingles, that's another one. Especially with cedar, usually the capping starts to crack first. Leaks in the attic. So, if it's leaking, usually there's a problem. Just go in the attic, take a look. And if your roof is usually over 20 years, it's probably time to consider looking for roofs. So a couple of things with leaks in the attic. I've had calls where it's sunny and people are like, oh, it's leaking, right? Don't call a roofer. It's usually a plumber. Save yourself the money because some roofers do charge for that. So it's probably a plumber if it's leaking. And I don't make fun of people. I was like, hey, it's sunny outside. Do you want to call a plumber? And it's usually a plumbing issue. And the roofs over 20 years. There's a lot of misconception that asphalt lasts for 30 plus years or so, but based on our climate, things like that, 20 years is usually around that range. If you have tile roofs or anything like that, that can go longer. Let's see what's next. Oh yeah, so roof maintenance. Just like if you have a car, if you don't maintain it, it's not going to last as long. Same thing with roofs, especially if it's a new roof. You want to take care of it. You want to protect your investment because it is an investment. It helps with the structure integrity. So your frame, all that stays up to par. And besides the damage prevention, it also extends the roof lifespan. And one thing I don't have on the slide is warranties, right? So let's say you install a new roof for 10 years, you do nothing because you think it's a new roof. On the 11th year, you're like, oh, I noticed the granules are all over the ground, something is wrong, right? You call the roofing company, they call the manufacturer. The manufacturer usually sends like an inspector, like an insurance policy would. And the first thing they ask you is, where's your maintenance log? Have you done any maintenance? And usually people say, no, I haven't. Or I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And that just gives them a leeway to say, hey, you haven't maintained your roof, so we're not going to cover you as much as we should. So yeah, it's really important. And roof maintenance is relatively cheap, especially if your roof is newer. It's usually $200 to $300 a visit, depending on your roof size. Just checking some caulking, some vents, stuff like that. So it's not as expensive as people think it is. Yeah, comfort balance is a great source of happiness. So yeah, if your roof or your foundation is if something's wrong, then you're not gonna be happy. Right? Yeah, so the maintenance checklist, pretty straightforward stuff. The tree branch trimming thing, especially in Coquitlam, North Van, those type of areas, you want to be mindful of that just because the more organic stuff that's on your roof, doesn't matter what type of roof it is, the more likely there's going to be a chance of an issue. Because asphalt or besides synthetics, any other brand, any other type of roof is not meant to have organics on it. It's supposed to shed off. So yeah, just making sure the trees are being cleaned off, everything like that. Gutter cleaning, that's another one. I know some people that they have to get their gutters cleaned every 3-4 months, and some people once a year, just depending on where you live, the type of environment you're in. And then leak detection. Yeah, if you're not afraid of a little bit of checking your attics is always good. And don't store things in your attic. That's a big no-no. It's supposed to be air flowing, right? So yeah, if you have a couple of boxes, that's not going to be a big deal. But I've seen some attics that are fully stuffed, and they're like, "Oh, my roof's bad." I'm like, "It is probably because of the air." Yeah. Common roofing materials. Yeah, so there's a lot of different options. Asphalt is the most common one because it's economical, it's durable. Clay tiles, cement tiles, that was popular. Wood shakes it's basically extinct now. Not many people are doing wood shakes anymore, just because of the economics. It's just not worth it. And slate or synthetic, that's on the come up. Those usually last 50 years. Good for investments. Looks good. But yeah, usually asphalt is the most economical choice. That's what people are going with. Let's see what's next. Okay, so the roof replacement process. It's not as scary as it sounds, especially if it's your first time. It could be a daunting task, but it's not as complicated. If you're working with a good roofer, it should take you to an easy process. So first is an inspection. We walk through things. Then we start taking the old roof off, installing the underlayment, the new shingles, and then we bring it back to all together, clean it up, and move on, right? So pretty seamless process if you have a professional roofer. Nothing too crazy. What's next? Okay, so yeah, so the replacement costs. So yeah, an average roof, even in the Lower Mainland, is about 12 to 20,000 on an average size home. If you have a larger home, yes, it'll be more. But that's what the numbers are in the market currently. And a roof repair is about $3,000. But if you're maintaining it over 10 years, it's 5,000. So that's about $300 to $400, but that includes the gutter cleaning and all of that other stuff. So yeah, it's good for long term. It'll definitely extend the life of the roof. And then yeah, there's some before and after pictures of just roofs some being done. But yeah, I think that's the end. Any questions?
Yeah, we'll open it up for questions. Kelly.
Yeah, go for it.
Tell Harman about the financing option.
Oh yeah, financing. Yeah, especially because it's a daunting task for some, especially if you have multiple properties and you don't want to take that money out, you want to write it off or whatever you want to do. We offer finance. We work through a third party called Finance It. So they give low interest based options on your approved credit. They do that, and I also do deals as well. I'm always willing to work with people, so it's not that. So financing shouldn't stop you from changing a roof, because what happens if your roof's leaking, if your roof's not good, your drywall's going to be damaged. If you have renters, especially with all the protections they have, they deserve protections. So they need to be protected and have a secure roof. So yeah, money shouldn't stop you from that. Yeah, good question. So Finance It offers a 240-month amortization rate, but you have a 5-year payment plan. So basically, you can extend. So let's say 15,000, for example, the payments will be around $230, and after the 5th year, you have the option to redo the loan with them, or you could do a balloon payment and get it over with. So it's really up to you. And I've spoken to Finance It multiple times. They're willing to do extended loans over extended period, because they're making money, you're happy, and by that point, Finance has already paid the contractor. So if the loan goes in your name, you don't have to worry about liens or anything like that, because Finance has already taken care of that. So yeah, sweet.
Any other questions, Kelly?
I have one roof to do right now, so that's why I'm very interested.
For sure.
Do you do commercial as well, like apartment buildings?
Yeah, we that's actually our main point of bread and butter, I guess. We work with a lot of roof consultants. So roof consultants are trusted in the Lower Mainland. They only have a select roofer group that they use to do complexes and things like that. And we're fortunate enough to be one of those 8-9 companies out there. So we do a lot of strata work, but again, or warehouse work. But again, no house or no customer is too small. So every customer I go usually myself. I do all the measurements and the estimates of the proposals myself, because every client's important, regardless of size. So yeah, we do that too.
I just want to tell everybody that I had a tenant send me a picture, and there was stains in the ceiling of the kitchen. She said, "I think there's something on the roof," and I just met Harman. I was like, "Oh my God, Harman!" I sent pictures to him. I said, "What do I do?" And he literally went there that day to assess it, to give me an idea of what I need to do. Tarped it up for me in the short term, and then we'll be doing the roof.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
You said the third party, that's RCABC certified, right?
Yeah, so there is a roofers association, right? And then the consultants are a separate entity, right? They're also part of the association, but then it's just when usually there's a large work to be done, they go through the association, the consultants, just because you want a third party intervention when it's like $1 million contract, right? And most roofers mean well, but it's always good to have that third party say like, yeah, this work is good. So. I'm sorry, you had a question?
Yeah. Came across this the other day on an MLS for a client, and I didn't know what it meant. I just had to look it up again. What's a membrane roof? They said the MLS was like, oh, new membrane roof or something.
Yeah, good question. So membrane, it could be an EPDM membrane or a flat membrane. So that just means a roof that's lower pitched. So pitch just means how slanted your roof is, right? So if they say a new membrane roof, it's in the Lower Mainland, it's usually it's called a torch-on or a SBS roof. And all these words are interchangeable. So they all mean the same thing, right? It just, it's kind of confusing. But if you say torch-on, 2-ply, they all mean the same thing. It just depends on who you talk to, right? So it's not as complicated as it sounds. So when they say a new membrane roof, that's probably good for like 20 years or so. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put that in there because that's a lot of technical information.
A lot of technical stuff.
Yeah, membrane sounds
Oh no, it's actually one of the best roofs you can get. It's that's really good. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Awesome. Thank
Well,
you
thanks
guys.
so much. Appreciate you coming out.
Oh, thank you.
Grab that. All right. Okay, now for something that everyone's been interested in, what's going on Airbnbs. So the last time we spoke in April, Airbnbs was just about at that timeline where it was being basically shut down, at least for us as investors. And we've been doing this Airbnb update for a while now, and Kelly's been letting you guys know her progress on her conversions, everything like that. But she's found a little bit of a different route that she's taken with a few of them, so I'm going to let her talk about it. And let's take it away, Kelly Fry.
Sounds good. All right. So as many of you know, I had 22 Airbnbs running. So the status as of right now is that I've converted, well, I've got 14 of them under control, which means there's still 8 that I'm working with. But 8 of the 1 bedrooms that were converted at $18.95, these units actually have no parking and no in-suite laundry. So that's a pretty good price and mission for a 1 bedroom. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of the tenant profiles because people say, well, who rents a furnished unit long term? So I have a female nail technician running her own business with a small dog. She makes like 10 grand at Christmas a month. Like she's got good income. I've got a single male iron worker who's separated from his girlfriend and child, and he needed a place quickly. The only iron worker in 20 years that has good credit that I've ever checked, because they all make 10 grand a month and they have terrible credit, but he's really good. I've got a retired male police officer who has a girlfriend, and I don't know why he's living in Mission, but he is. So I really like him. He's got a pension. And then I have this female social media influencer who got stopped at the border because she's been living in Airbnbs, went down to see her American boyfriend who she was supposed to marry, and customs stopped her and said, you don't have a fixed address. You're not coming back in for a year. You need to come back with a lease. So it was very fast, and she also makes very good income. So unusual profile of people for, you know, what people think Mission furnished rentals would attract. Cloverdale, I got a family of 3 working professionals and a child. Rented that one for $24.50. It's a 2-bedroom. And do you have a question?
I was going to say, oh, no, that's Alder Grove. Never mind. I was confused.
In Maple Ridge, I've got 2 out of 3 apartments converted. Both of them were in a complex, I think at Pitt Meadows, that was a co-op that had a fire. One of them is an 87-year-old man, and he has 3 pensions. So I was very excited. He wasn't concerned about the price at $21.95. Everything's included, so his daughter was relieved. And then the other one was a lady from the same complex. Over in Aldergrove, this is one property that I can't really carry long term. So I've put it on the market, and I do have an accepted offer. Subject removal is Monday, and we were able to squeeze in the inspection tomorrow afternoon with a cleaning time between 2 guests. So hopefully that goes through. Over in Chilliwack, I got 1 converted young couple. I can't remember. I had a paramedic staying there, and then this couple, quite educated. He's got a short-term job and will be leaving. She's going to stay there indefinitely. In Langley, I rented a condo that's newer to the MPA Society just because they were offering me good money, and I pulled the furniture out, took out the internet cable and everything. So $2,500 for 2 bedrooms is not a bad rent. So those are the ones that have been converted. Now, I was getting threatening emails from Airbnb, most only related to Coquitlam and Chilliwack. Those are the only 2 areas where they're saying you need a license, you need a license. And when I spoke to Airbnb, my expectation was that on May 1st, I would be deactivated in Coquitlam. That's what I was told, but that they would honor my existing reservations. So I was prepared for the worst. So April 30th, I converted everything to 90 days that was left. So I thought they can't get me if I put them on 90 days. And on May 1st, nothing happened. Everything carried on as usual. So then I thought about it, and I thought, well, many of the municipalities don't have a clear answer to what their regulations are. You call them and they just bounce you around. But I do know that several areas like White Rock, Vancouver, and Chilliwack are all 30-day minimums for their short-term rental rules. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move everything to 30 days because that's way better than 90 days. And I started to get some bookings. And so these remaining units that I'm working on, I started to think about it. And these people that are policing the Airbnb, they're government workers. So I thought, I bet you they don't work after 6 o'clock at night. And they probably don't start till after 8 a.m. And they don't work weekends because the government led us to believe that they had all these algorithms working and it was going to be technology based. I was like, I don't think so. So every night I convert everything back to 1 day minimums. And in the morning I get up and I put them back to 30 days. So then what happened was I had a flood of bookings. Like I'm talking, because I realized the government doesn't know which bookings you had before May 1st. So they can't really clamp down on summer bookings right now. They'll really clamp down in the fall, I suspect. So I'm playing this little gambling game every day.
I love it.
So this has been my strategy. And the only problem with this is that I got so many bookings now I can't show them as rentals because they're all booked with guests from Airbnb. So I continue to try and rent them. And now I'm telling people, well, it should be available August 1st. Can't rent it to you right now because I have all these bookings. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully by August 1st, I will convert more of them. And then by the fall, when they really crack down, I will have captured all the summer premiums. So that's my story.
All right. So we can always count on Kelly to trailblaze. When Airbnb was still a newer concept to a lot of investors, she was right in there saying, okay, we got to test this out. And now it's testing out what limits she can push right now. And always count on Kelly for that. All right, let's move on to our investor spotlight. So Mike Manuela, come on up. We'll get you guys some chairs. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Absolutely. All right. And I'm going to give you guys this. So depending who's talking, just make sure you're holding that so the people online can hear you guys. And I got my list of questions right here. And we'll open it up for questions to the audience after. But we're going to kind of keep it somewhat conversational, right? So just kind of casual. So first and foremost, tell us about yourselves. What did you guys do before the wonderful world of real estate?
Everything. Before real estate,
How long do we have,
owned
right?
a number of different businesses. So Manuela is a executive secretary for. It's close enough. Oh, okay. She was private secretary for an organization, and then I owned a private school and also a computer company. And I got the point that I didn't want to continue in the computer business. It was a 9 to 5 job. Like 9 in the morning to 5 in the morning, and going that's maybe a little much.
And the secretary was building the computers.
Yeah, she learned how to build computers, did a fine job at it. And so I got the point that it was time to let the computer business go, and the school was operating on its own, so I didn't have to do anything with it. But I couldn't go cold turkey, so I had to find something else to kind of occupy my time. And real estate just happened to come along, and I went, ooh.
So what led you to decide real estate? Like, what was the moment that said, yeah, that's the route we're gonna go?
I've had an interest in real estate ever since I was knee high to a grasshopper, about that high, and but never really had the time to focus on it. Owning my own businesses, of course, it's like go. So now that I'm starting to slow down on the business side, I had an invitation through LinkedIn, and it was a 2-hour free seminar to go and learn about real estate investment. Sure, why not? 2 hours, what the hell? So that's what I did.
So that 2 hours then turned into
2 hours. He offered us a 3-day training course for $500, and I'm going, oh, that's cheap, because in the computer industry you're spending $2,000-3,000 a day, and here we got 3 days for $500. And then they said,
and they can bring a spouse too,
for
right?
two.
Yeah.
I had to go, shit, sign me up. Can I say that?
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. Absolutely. So you sign up for the weekend course, and you go to the weekend course. What happens there?
Well, as first off in the course, I couldn't wait to have the course in Vancouver, so we flew to Calgary, and we did it in Calgary. And there they taught us about some of the other different strategies in real estate and how to make money on different ways of doing things in that. So we learned quite a bit. And then we signed up for 4 more courses plus mentorship.
What was the education company?
Sorry.
What was the education?
What was the education company?
It was Rich Dad or Elite Education. Yeah. Yeah, so it was based on Rich Dad. It was elite education at that time. So anyway, so we signed up for some additional training, and we did all of our training. We had a mentorship, and it actually did very well with it. So
excellent. Sounds like a very similar process. In fact, our last investor spotlight,
Yeah,
they had a similar path, right? Going to
did.
the 2 hour. And
that's how
then,
we met.
that's
That's
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of us, we have that scenario where, especially if we've been around for, last decade or so, those were very popular, right? The Rich Dad Education. There are several others like Keyspire, we're several members of Keyspire. But those who don't necessarily have the capital, what would you recommend then instead of, because I mean, those courses, $500 for a weekend's good, but that other course wasn't that cheap, right?
Well, we had a couple bucks in savings.
Yeah, there you go, right? But what would you recommend then for someone if they don't have the capital but still want to get started in real estate? What can they do?
Well, first of all, join a network group like this one
Mhm.
or some other
Mhm.
ones and network. And
Yeah.
there's people out there with money. You have a deal for them. You can partner, you can JV, you can do all sorts of, you can be very creative
Mhm.
in the business. But we're actually, our education was paid as soon as we left the 3-day training because we had our first deal right there.
Fantastic.
We didn't know the partners, they were back east, and it was our first rent to own.
There we go.
Yeah, we provided the capital, they provided 3 years of work, and it was a very successful
So,
ending.
so then that was one of your first deals, was that rent to
very
own.
first
Yeah.
one.
So
Yeah.
excellent. And how did your investing kind of progress from there? Was rent to own a focus, or how did it evolve over time?
Well, we thought it was a focus. We're going to do this, but we're never going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Well, we did everything. We did absolutely everything. We're not going to deal with foundation or roofing or leaking. Oh, we did all of those.
Oh, yeah.
Those are fun. But no, you think you're going to focus on something, but it's better to try everything.
Mhm.
And different length of time and try to close on something and open something, but kind of overlapping, make sure that you always have some capital moving around, and it becomes like a snowball, but also then it divides again. It's just, and you sit back and just watch.
Absolutely. Now, what has been one of your biggest focuses as an investor? Has it been focusing on appreciation, cash flow, flipping, private equity, lending? What's been, yeah, everything.
All the above.
Basically, if you can get a
Yeah.
good return out of it,
Yeah.
right? So,
Actually, our portfolio is actually quite diversified and intentionally so. And it's based on a premise that we never keep all of our eggs in one basket. So we have several baskets. So we actually invest all across Canada and the United States. And we have several different markets. We've done fix and flips. We started with rent to own. We thought that was going to be our focus. And then as we started learning more about real estate, we thought, well, there's a whole world out there of things to learn about. And I want to experience all of them. And I think we did. So we've done the fix and
We
flips,
are.
rent to own, we've done commercial, we've done land development,
Mhm.
we've done
Private money.
private lending.
Yeah.
Pretty much
Syndication.
anything you think of in real estate we've done, and we enjoy it. The more we do, the more we enjoy. So yeah.
now, what has been one of your most lucrative deals?
Port Moody.
Port Moody.
Port
Okay,
Moody.
tell us about
we
it.
had actually, it was a friend, and she was renting in Port Moody, and she said, my landlord wants to sell the place, but I still need 1 more year to be there for my kids finishing school. So I don't know what to do. And her landlord was in the States, the owner. And we said, well, contact him and see what he wants to do. He wants to sell the place. I was okay, let's buy it. And then you sign a lease for a year and then you're done. And we did. We bought the place. She did all the negotiating. Absolutely. Everything. So it was a private sale. We bought the place and
It's 30,000 under market.
for 30,000 on the
Yeah.
market. A year went by, and she said, well, we're going to, she moved out. And then I said, what we're going to do. And actually we started contacting you
Mhm.
and said, well, we're going to do some renovation. We did the flooring and carpet and painting. And then the guy across the street was looking at it. He had a condo across the street. And I said, can I have it? And we went, okay. And we made in a year 250 on it.
Well done on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's nice. Like they did all the work for us. It was nice to
I
sit
know.
back
We just signed the papers.
and move money around here and there.
Boom, 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 and
Yeah.
paycheck, please.
Yeah. Ka-ching.
Excellent. But now, obviously, real estate is not without its
No.
challenges. So let's flip that over. What's been one of your most challenging deals? Now, I'm going to be talking about my most challenging deal in a bit here, and you guys have
I
known some of
know.
the story.
Yeah.
Let's hear your most challenging deal.
Well, it's know you partners. Dickhead and dickhead.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So the most challenging one was actually our first land development project, which was in Maple Ridge, and so we met. Yeah,
Yep.
you know that one. Yeah. So we met a couple of guys that were, I guess, general contractors, and they supposedly built a couple of houses in Surrey, and they talked a lot, talked a big story, and so we partnered up. We're going to do a land development project in Maple Ridge. It's supposed to be 8-9 months maximum.
Only.
We're going to do all the work at City Hall. We're going to get subdivide the lots for three lots into one, or 1 into 3 rather, and then build 3 houses on it. And so yeah, 8-9 months tops will be done. Well, 4.5 years later, after going through court and a whole bunch of other stuff, we finally got rid of the property, and so we ditched the partners, and we ended up doing the work ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it was actually an interesting process. I mean, it was
Big learning curve.
lots of, yeah. It was some painful experiences in
Yep.
there. It's a lot of sleepless nights, but we learned an incredible amount about land development, and so it's given us the confidence to take on more land development projects. But also with the experience with having partners that didn't work out, changed the way we did our business significantly.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing new partnerships, we're a lot more careful about who we deal with and what we do. And when it comes to doing legal agreements, now this guy was also a lawyer and a
Judge.
circuit judge. So we kind of trusted that he knew what he was doing. Well, yeah, he was doing what he was doing for him, not for us. So anyway, so it changed the way we did our business models and with partnerships and contracts and that. So as much as it was a painful, long drawn out process, we did learn from it. And at the end of the day, we actually did really well at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Actually, to the amount that we actually pissed him off real bad.
Bonus.
It is a long land development. Like it's just paying money on this empty piece of dirt that nothing gets there so slow. And so
And even at the end of the day, even after that 4.5 years, it was still sold as a vacant lot. The servicing, you got the servicing all ready to go, so a buyer could buy it and start building on it. But you know, at the end of the day, that still a building wasn't there when you finally sold
luckily
it.
it appreciated over the years.
We sold it for good prices, and I think they still haven't even built, have they?
They're in
finally
the
did?
finishing stages.
Finally.
So the 2 houses are just up for completion now, and the 3rd house is still under construction.
Right.
So, and that was like we sold
that a few years ago.
2 years ago,
3 years ago.
So it's taken a bit of time to get those houses done, but it's
We drive by occasionally.
So I know Pete just asked.
How much did the city of Maple Ridge contribute to that problem? Just because I know that they're super slow behind.
But they were sued apparently, so they got even slower.
yeah.
So
But the biggest challenge time wise was to deal with the partnership, and that alone took 2.5 years to dissolve the partnership, and a lot of legal process, and it was a rather large legal bill, but you know what? At the end of the day, it was worth every penny.
theirs was too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they hated spending
we
money.
could afford it.
They hated spending money. But so
Yeah.
Mike said, "I'll take you further. I don't have a problem to take you further." And even the lawyers when we had the arbitration, they said, "See, they have 3 lawyers with them. You guys have 1." So I think they're ready to move on. Oh no, we're good.
What caused the partnership with Nashville? Was it disagreements?
No, they didn't put. Okay, another thing is they didn't put nothing in. They had no skin in the game whatsoever. So it didn't bother them. But they kept saying, we're going to City Hall, we got this approved, we got that. And then we'll go to City Hall. I said, no, nobody was here about that. And they said, oh yeah, we can start digging. We got dirt, you can move dirt around. You're allowed to move dirt around. The guy heard that, said, oh no, you're not moving any dirt around without a permit.
Yeah.
They were lying. There was lots of untruth. I can't call him a liar. Right? Can't call him a liar. So there was lots of untruth.
Don't forget it's recorded.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was a lot of issues had to do with the partnership and dissolving the partnership, and unfortunately, they talked a lot but did very little, and they got to the point that like I kept pushing to get the actual development work done because we were starting to get permits in, but they were so busy doing their own contracts, they didn't do any of the work on a project. So finally, I actually get hold of the contractors myself to actually do the work and actually supervise it, and got it done myself, and they did nothing, and so it's a learning experience.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
but like I say, the way we do our contracts are much different these days. So we have more protection for ourselves and to make sure it's level playing field.
We all
for
need
everyone.
one of those just to.
You need one good learner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, a lot of people aren't going to start out on the development side of things, right?
No.
So you guys also have a lot of experience on traditional real estate, buying and renting properties. Now,
Yes.
the one thing that's always scary for a lot of people is like, okay, I'm going to buy this property, but now I got to deal with tenants. So talk to us about how you've dealt with tenants. How, have they been great tenants? Have you had any troublesome ones? I know some of the stories because I've dealt with those tenants. So I'm going to let you guys talk about it though. So
We've had the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
For the
The
most
best-
part,
yeah.
it's good.
The best tenants ever are the rent-to-own tenants.
Yeah.
Because they have skin in the game and they're there because they want to be there.
That's gonna
There's
be
a
their
very
home.
distinct difference between a rent-to-own tenant and a regular tenant. So it's like market difference between the two. But the regular conventional run-of-the-mill tenants, we've had some very, very good ones. We have one in Poco that we're working with right now.
she's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been great.
Yeah. So she's looking after the place, and it's absolutely spotless and immaculate. So we
Good
did the
show
open
home.
house, and all the people looking at it going, "Does this property staged?" Because it didn't look like she lived there. It was just
That was some of the comments. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so then we had another one. It was a townhouse in Poco, and started off pretty good, but it was right before COVID. So we actually did the deal. He moved in just like literally 2 days before lockdown. And so we got him into property just before lockdown.
Two guys
And two guys.
with more money than brains.
Yeah.
Tons of
Yeah.
money, nothing to show for it.
Oh yeah, everything is cash. And it's like, he's going to give me the deposit. He pulls this wad of bills out of his pocket and says, "Here, I'll give you." I said, "No, e-transfer." So anyway, so the first year wasn't so bad, and then we did an inspection. So we have the properties inspected on a regular basis, and discovered that now there's only one guy, and the other guy's girlfriend's moving in and going, "Oh,
And a
that's
dog, they got a
interesting."
dog.
And oh yeah,
Two
Oh, by
dogs.
the way, you have two dogs. I'm like, really?
German
So anyway,
shepherds.
so there's some discussion about the dogs and the tenant change. So we had to end up doing a new lease agreement and so on. And then there's a bit of damage from the dogs, and they're supposed to repair it. So they did some of the repairs, but yeah. Well, at that stage, it was not too bad.
Or when
That
I
was
saw
first
it.
year. That's the first year. And then they're supposed to do some painting and whatnot and fix it up. And then, of course, we're still under COVID restrictions and that. So we're still doing the inspections on a regular basis or irregular basis, as the case may be. And each time we look at the property, it's getting worse and worse and worse and more and more and more damage. It's like, oh, crap. And it's all from the dog. And actually, they finally got rid of one of the two dogs when one of the tenants moved out. So now it's just one dog. But gorgeous dog. Oh, I would die to have that dog. But anyway, just not the tenant that goes with it. But anyway, so it got the point that I had to do something with the property, and I tried to get rid of them, and unfortunately, I got some bad advice from somebody, so that didn't work out so good. So I figured, well, the easiest way of doing it, and we're at that stage of getting rid of the property anyway, so we sold the property. And actually, with the inspections, I got the point he was refusing to do the inspections first off, and says, okay, we'll just do a notice of entry. So we post a notice of entry on the door and says we're coming in, like it or not. And so the first one he tried to just say, no, you're not coming in. So he said, okay. And then we did it again, and we didn't give him any further notice. We just put the notice of entry on the door, and we showed up. So I showed up with the inspector. These guys are all at work. We went in, we did the inspection, and the inspector left the card on the stairwell to let them know that we'd been in the property. Oh, he went ballistic. You broke the law. So he was just really upset. So anyway, here, talk to these inspector. This is what we've done. That's fully within the confines of the residential tenancy board, and we've done everything properly. So he didn't like that. So anyway, we got the point that said, well, enough of this. So we sold the property, and so Cameron came along in our knight in shining armor, and we got rid of the property and got rid of the tenants, and the tenants are still pissed off at us.
Lots of traffic, but the complaint was
Yeah,
it's a little bit
so,
disheveled.
yeah.
Nothing
But
price
anyway.
can't overcome, right?
yeah. So it was nice to see the back end of them. So
Now, one of the things, obviously, since you've been a longtime member here, I've witnessed the conversations that happen, and you've actually done a lot of private lending, even in amongst the members here. So take us through a little bit about like private lending. When someone is in this group and they're looking to come to someone like yourself or anyone else in this room with a deal, what do you look for in a, like from a lending standpoint, so that someone can be prepared to bring all that to someone like you?
Well, we're looking at time frame. We try to do those, keep them short, between 6 to 12 months if possible, depends on the amount. And also, again, the paperwork, make sure that there's some insurance.
yeah. So typically we look at the investor and the track record of the investor. We look at the project. We look at the numbers. Like, do these numbers actually make sense? Does the investor actually know what he's doing? Or she is doing, as the case may be. So we're looking for some level of expertise or knowledge, some trustworthiness and referrals, and that goes a long way as well. And as Manuel says, we do the paperwork, so depends for a second mortgage involved. So we actually have something registered on title against the property. We have done some loans that are not registered, but again, you need to earn those loans to get those.
You need to really trust those people.
And then also,
so we have a few investors. We've done quite a few projects with them.
Again, and I know this just security blanket is just look them up under the legal services and check the records, because if there's a record there, and maybe not.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's a free service, but it's really worth looking, because you go.
Yeah. Next.
What's it called?
CSO website, Court Services Online.
Yeah.
So every province has one.
CSL,
I mean, we do, for those who can't hear
under
over
the
there,
civil ones.
even when you're screening a tenant, it's a great resource. We've done some examples on stage here where we show this one lady where she's had 15 bailiff evictions. Well, that's not a tenant you want to, rent to. And that doesn't include all the times they got her out before it got that far, right?
Yeah.
So, it's one more level of security when you're screening a tenant. Use the CSO website to just see if they've had any sort of legal issues, right? And you can tell after when you can pull it, you pay like $9, $10 to actually, or $6, depending on what it is. You can actually pull all of the records, and so you can actually see what it's for, right? And sometimes you'll see like a traffic violation here or there, and then you'll see not likely going to rent to you.
So to look them up is free, but if you want to pull the file, you have to pay for it. But if you see there's something, and then you say there's so and so versus so and so, okay, there's been issues there, and so it's like, maybe not.
So I'm going to open it up to some questions from the crowd now. When they ask a question, we're just going to repeat the question for those online, and then we'll go ahead and answer. Does anyone have any questions for Mike and Manuela? Mimi?
You guys said you've done all these different strategies. Which one is your favorite?
Okay,
which one of the strategies is a favorite?
I don't have a favorite. I like all of them, and I would do all of them equally as much again. My lovely wife would have a different opinion, but I like diversity and variety. And as my wife will tell you, I have the patience of a gnat.
That means a long project would not be a good thing.
And Kelly said he's an addict, and I'm his dealer.
I like all of them for different reasons, but just the variety. I just enjoy the variety of work.
I prefer more hands off and have it like right now. We do have land developing back east, and I prefer just let them do the work and let's just book a holiday.
And holiday they do.
We travel. A lot. We got 8 months booked in this next year.
I watch on Facebook and I go, oh yeah, I'm dealing with their tenant right now. Excellent. Any other questions? Tim.
So it sounds like you have a very diversified portfolio. How do you monitor it, so to speak? Like, it sounds like you have lots going on, private loans,
Yeah.
all these things. Do you have tools you use? Do you have a big spreadsheet? Do you have paper? Like, how does that?
Yeah. So question again is, you got a very diverse portfolio. How do you track it all? Do you have systems? What does that look like?
We typically keep about 18 projects on the go at any given time on average. A lot of it's done through spreadsheets, communications. When we go into, for example, when we went to Indianapolis, we were doing fix and flips. We'd go in and set up a power team in Indianapolis. So we do a bit of research beforehand. And that particular market was specifically fix and flips. So we did a bit of research beforehand and talked to realtors, lawyers, title companies, mortgage brokers, everything. And then we'd actually book a trip down there and go and start meeting people, look at the actual market, and decide if that's a market that we want to be in. But as we're down there, we're starting to build relationships with people that we want to start working with. And so effectively, we end up with a power team that we can actually rely and trust on to get the work done for us. One of the things that we're also really careful about, especially on fix and flips, is I don't write you a check until I see pictures and I know for sure the work is done. And I give small amounts at a time. And so you get an initial deposit. And then as you do the work, you send me a picture, I send you money. I feel that's pretty fair. I've seen too many people that get ripped off, and contractors that come and they go and they grab your money and you toast. So
Spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Is the answer.
Yeah. Lots of spreadsheet. Yeah. I know the business end of a keyboard.
I was going to say, I remember he had a computer company at one point, right? So spreadsheets.
Computer company also used in school. I used to do all the technical training as well. So I taught all the computer classes.
All right. Yes.
Just wondering, what's your motivation? Like clearly it's probably not, maybe it's money, maybe it's not money. Like what's your motivation for being so active in investing?
So
And the freedom that it gives you.
So we'll just repeat it. So what is the motivation to be in this business? What keeps you going in it?
Well, because you can do it from anywhere. So, you can be traveling as long as you have internet access, you can still do those
So is
things.
it the fun of the deal?
Oh, it's fun. Oh,
It's the
yeah.
fun of
I was going to say, I know.
It's really
I know.
good.
It's an adrenaline rush. But the first
Yeah.
one is the scariest. I was shaking the first one. And he was excited. I was on our way home. I said, we haven't had the class yet, and you're already doing the deal. We haven't on that class. We haven't done the deal. I said, no, that will be fine. And yeah, it was fine. But the first one is the scariest. But then it becomes just like, oh, let's get more.
Yeah.
It's become such an adrenaline. Kelly, right?
Actually,
Adrenaline junkies over here.
every class we had, we did the deal for the class before the class started.
Make sure we did it right.
Yeah. And then we took the class to figure out what the hell we just did. But yeah, no, it's a lot of it is, the thrill of the deal. A lot of it also is giving back, because a lot of things we do is when you do some of these projects, like in Indianapolis, for example, every time you sold a property, some of the profits go back into the community as well. So part of it is giving back to the community and building a better living environment for people to live in as well. So you take an old dilapidated house, you fix it up and make sure it's done really nice, and you give that back to the community.
The ugly house in a nice street.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love those.
All right, final question, and again, this is the same question we asked to our last investor spotlight. This comes more from the team, but they deal with me and they see the back end side of things. But how is it dealing with Cameron and the Kelly Fry team as a whole from your guys' perspective?
Well, let me tell you. It's been absolutely great. I mean,
do what you need
I'm
to
going
do.
to be back.
Yes. No, it's
Actually,
been wonderful.
we did our first deal together in Port
Yes.
St. John.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
And that was before I was an agent as well. I was an investor at that time.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were an investor. You were just getting
So-
into the real estate.
Yeah.
So we
We've
still
done
got
lots of
that
deals.
property now.
How's that one working out for you?
Well, that property now is splitting.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, the back end of the house.
The back end
just
is
fell off.
falling.
It's falling off.
I think we did that deal 11 years ago now.
Yeah. So we just it
Love it.
was good, but put it on the market, and the realtor went to look at it. Says, by the way, did you know the addition to the back of the house is falling off? And I go, oh, really? Nobody bothered to tell me, but anyway, so we're sorting that out. So
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Awesome.
we've done lots of deals together and buying and selling and
You win some, you lose some, but at the end of the day, it kind of
Yeah.
balances out.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
we're fine.
Yeah.
It's fun.
All right, excellent. Well, we appreciate you guys. Oh, sorry, one more question.
Yeah, so you've done some deals in the US. What's your favorite or most profitable deal in the US? And what was different as far as the legal, the financing, and the tax?
Okay, so repeating question. Done some deals in the US. What has been the biggest differences in terms of like legal costs, process, as well as what's been the most lucrative deal you said? Yeah.
Your
Favorite deal?
Legal cost is
have you
cheap
got an
as
hour or two?
gorge. Yeah.
That's just for the intro, but
The
Yeah.
legal cost
Yeah.
is nothing. It's really,
Yeah.
really cheap.
Yeah.
We got deals for $250.
Yeah.
And they would take care of everything.
Yeah.
The banking system sucks.
Mhm.
People could never close out of 10 properties, only one close on time. The bank would make them wait. Oh, we need another week. And they have to put all the stuff in storage and go in a hotel for a week.
Yeah.
But the contractor, it's a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
in,
Yeah, significantly cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, it depends on the market you pick. I mean, you can find some really expensive markets, but the particular market we were looking for about a middle class market. And so we're looking at houses that were sell for around 240, 250 range. And we were buying them like dirt cheap.
10,
like-
12.
What state?
That was in
Indiana.
Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So labor is a lot cheaper, materials a lot cheaper. The process is somewhat different. Even when you're buying and selling with realtors and that, the process is a little different.
Buyers don't even need any money down.
Yeah.
The bank gives them 110% financing with money in their pocket.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very different market. It takes a bit of getting used to and a bit of things to learn down there. But
And you're going to buy for cash flow more than appreciation there, I'm assuming.
Or the
You're going to
buying for cash flow or appreciation?
For cash.
buying for doing fix and flips for
So forced appreciation.
Yeah.
forced appreciation. So yeah. So the idea is get in, get out quickly as you can, and next.
They were fun project. Though some
Yeah.
houses were a lot of fun.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
We transformed the whole thing.
Did you guys
Excellent.
use a US Corp? Or
Did you use a US Corp?
Yes, we had 3 corporations down there, and so we did the 3-level hierarchy, and so with the asset protection and everything down there. So yeah.
Great. Sorry, last question. All right.
What's like the next market you see that has a lot of potential, either Canada or the States?
All right. Next market that you see has a lot of potential, Canada or US?
It's hard to answer because we're kind of slowing down now.
Yeah.
We're not looking, but I don't know.
I haven't got a clear answer for you. As Manuel
Ask
says,
again
we're
after
actually
the
at that point.
election.
What's that?
Ask again after the elections.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the U.S. market until the elections are done, I wouldn't even consider it. Actually, one of the reasons we stopped in Indianapolis is Trump got in, we got out. Hope there's no Trump fans.
And
there.
actually, it was
Yeah.
it was so visible. So that we were slowing down, and all the nice areas we were building in, they were starting to get riddled with crime now. It was really, really quick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks again for everything.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you,
Appreciate it.
Kevin.
You betcha. Here, I'll grab that there. And all right. Move these out of the way. Okay. So our next segment here is the Tales from the Trenches. Now, if you guys are here for the very first time, this is a segment that we do to highlight the other side of real estate. Now, you know, we hear a lot. You go to the Rich Dad Education, the Key Spires, you're learning how to build your wealth. That's exciting. And you're making money and you're retiring and living on beaches. And then you buy that first property, or you have a house that's, you know, separating, or, you know, a clogged toilet call or anything like that. So we do this segment to do 2 things. One, show you what could possibly happen. And if it does happen, how you can either completely avoid it by learning from our mistakes, or 2, learn how to react quickly from other people's experience. So that way you can mitigate any possible impact to your property and or portfolio. And today we're going to be covering management can make or break you. So this is something I've been putting off. Kelly's been pushing me to talk about for a while. Most of you guys know I bought a building in Edmonton about 8 years ago. So this is an 11-suite building in the central McDougall, just north, like literally a couple of blocks away from where Oilers are playing right now. Who's got the score? I haven't even looked yet because I've been doing this. 2-1 for who? All right, so 2 blocks away, the Oilers are winning from where that building was. So we were really excited because the big push for that area was the Ice District. All right, we bought into that area thinking, okay, they're going to be revitalizing this area. The reason why they were able to start revitalizing that area is because they finally shut down the Edmonton Municipal Airport, which allowed them to start going a little higher because they're not in flight paths anymore. And there's all this pitch of the arena and the towers, and it's going to be the next Yale town of Edmonton, right? That was kind of, they're looking at all the different arena towns and seeing how it's going. So oil had already been down for a couple of years. The market had been down in Edmonton, and we say, okay, it's been down for a while. Now's probably the time for us to get into this market because we're probably going to come up the other side of it. Plus, they got this big investment. This is billions of dollars being invested. So we buy this building. And from day one, we fought an uphill battle with it, right? So a couple things happened. One, we got a federal election that voted in somebody who was anti-oil and gas. And then provincially, it happened as well. So oil and gas never really truly recovered like the way it was prior to the oil and gas going down. So we bought this building thinking we're going to get in there, we're going to renovate suites, we're going to increase the rent to market rent, and then we're going to be able to turn this building, refinance it, and that didn't happen. Why? Because as we were renovating suites, the rents were sliding down faster than we could actually renovate them and get new tenants in there. So while we would evict somebody who's paying, let's say for a 3-bedroom, they were going for around $900 at the time, and renovated, we could get them for $13 when we did our analysis. By the time we closed on the building, started evicting tenants, renovating the units, those same 3-bedroom units that were renting at $900 unrenovated, renovated were renting for $950. So it's like, well, why are we going to put $20,000 per unit into a building to only get $50 more a month? It doesn't make any sense. So suddenly our pattern had to shift. It had to be hold. Like just hold on as long as we can. Hopefully things improve. And unfortunately, we had several partners involved in this, and some of the partners were, okay, maybe let's hold on, see what happens. Other ones were, maybe we should just get out and get out as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, the hold on and wait and see won out, and we waited way too long to wait and see. Now, few things happened during the course of the time. We were able to refinance the building. We were able to get it onto a much lower interest rate. That helped for a while. We stabilized the building, and we were kind of break even. So it wasn't that bad necessarily. We had about 3 years where it was, if we had a vacancy, we'd have to inject a little bit of cash. If we were fully occupied, we'd be kind of break even, making a little bit of money. We're like, okay, if we can have this, maybe when things finally turn around. Well, COVID happened. And while everything's going up, things got worse for us, and that's where, as an investor, I've invested in BC, I've invested in Alberta. I realized that had I just put all that money that I put into that building in Alberta, I would be in BC, sorry, that I put in Alberta, I would be stinking rich by now, but I didn't. So, we had to keep injecting capital into that property because what happened was drugs and homeless population exploded in the Edmonton area, and almost every single multifamily investor got hammered with what I'm going to show you next. So we started getting complaints from the manager, but it was light. Oh yeah, homeless guys sleeping under the awning. We had to, move some drug paraphernalia and stuff. These are the kind of reports we get until finally we get a notice from our property manager saying, hey, here's your 30 days notice. We're no longer managing your building. It's just too much for us to handle. So we check it out. Well, no, it's not just people sleeping under the awnings. They've been breaking in regularly. My beautiful glass front doors that are very welcoming have been plywood for the last 6 months. We didn't know about any of this. They were not reporting this because they were too nervous that they would, probably have us fire them for not, maintaining the building. And then they finally fired us. So these are some of the reports that we got from our new manager that came into place. Unfortunately, things have not been good. The building has been out of control. Our electrician was able to get all the lighting upgrade, which they have not damaged or touched, thank God. But they did wreck some of the conduits, 3 cameras on the basement level, and this is where the homeless like to hang out. So we have a homeless population in and amongst our tenant population regularly at this point. They're prying the doors open almost every night. We've had a locksmith out every other day to secure the doors. They're breaking the latches or sticking things in them. The locksmith and our glass guy have never seen a building attacked this often before. 2 of my handymen have been out twice a day for the past few weeks just to clear people out. They got attacked on the weekend and ended up getting the guy out, but had to call the police as well. 9th call to the police since taking this building over. We've had to send him out with his dog for protection. Activity has been slower as a result. Obviously, we started having more vacancies because, tenants don't want to live amongst that, right? They're paying, $1,000, $900. There's no way they're going to come home to like 3 people shooting up in the hallway that they have to step over, right? So my vacancies now, I'm dealing with all the damage. Well, that's an expense, and I don't have the rent coming in to cover it. And at one point, it's going to come up in a bit, but yeah, here it is. The tenants have banded together and they're not paying February rent until this is sorted. They're requesting security, right? And this is all news to us. We didn't know how bad this building had gotten because, again, we all live here in BC, all of us do. And we trusted the managers who we hired, who got a great reputation, and they did well for us pre-COVID. But then when shit hit the fan, they gave up and didn't manage the building at all, right? So now suddenly I've got bills coming out everywhere for repairs and maintenance. I've replaced the glass typically every 2 weeks. And finally we said, okay, what do we have to do to stop this? And he goes, our new guy goes, well, here's what we've been doing on every single other building is we are making them fortresses. Now, it's not cheap to make your building a fortress, but you have to do it because what you're really doing, and this is the unfortunate reality of what it was in Edmonton at the time, is you can't fix the homeless issue yourself. So all you have to do is shift it to somebody else's building. And that's what had happened on our street. We were the last building that had gone through the fortress fortifying your building. So that's why so our only option was to try to shift that to somebody else down the block. Before the fob system can be installed, that was another thing we had to do was get rid of all of our keys, go to fobs, because what was happening is somehow they were getting keys. And I think what it was, and it was never proven, but they were probably sticking up the tenants, probably at knife point or something like that to get a key into the building. So we had to go to fobs because at least with the fobs and the cameras, if we saw someone with a fob who shouldn't have a fob, well, we could deactivate that fob. So at least they get in once, they won't get in again, right? But that's a cost to always be reissuing fobs. We had to upgrade all of our security. We upgraded all of our doors. We've been waiting on quotes for metal frame doors, small slit of glass, because again, we had these big, nice, beautiful glass that just didn't exist because it was plywood. Had to do some exterior work, obviously, to retrofit it. Obviously, a lot of electrical work. We probably spent in security upgrades around $170,000 of money that we did not have at the time. We had to find it. This is just some of the photos we've got. You can see the people congregating. Several of them will be, basically knocked out. They're on their drugs, keeled over. A lot of, unfortunately, this is going to be graphic, fecal matter that we had to deal with in our hallways, the smell. You could see, again, them hanging out. The graffiti on the walls, they damaged the walls significantly. So it was an extreme problem for us. And we kept pushing it down as much as we can. Okay, let's start spending money. This building, again, we're hearing the market's picking up. COVID, Vancouver's going crazy. Edmonton agents are saying how great Alberta is. We still weren't experiencing it. So again, here's some more stuff. My electrician's been out working on the power for cameras, upgraded to current lighting, repairing outlets damaged, replacing light fixtures with LED lights. Homeless have been stealing glass color covers as well as light bulbs. Many of the hallways and stairs have been blacked out. They also damaged the 2 exit signs. Well, legally, we have to have those exit signs. Tenants have been scared the last few days. 10 out of 13 people have been scattered in the utility rooms. They broke into utility rooms. That's dangerous, too, because that's where, obviously, our boiler is, everything like that. Police got involved. It got to the point where I got a call from the sheriff's office, and I told Kelly this, and Kelly was like, what the fuck? I get a call from the sheriff's office and they say, hey, are you one of the owners of this building? And I say, I am. And they say, okay, we are currently investigating you and your partners for criminal negligence. And I'm like, wait, what? And they said, we have had so many calls from your building and we are now having to start a task force going against building owners who are not trying to solve the problem and protect their tenants. I say, hold on. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, I have spent so much money recently trying to upgrade and secure our building. I can show you all the invoices. My property manager can show you the building. They go, well, until then, he's like, we're going to be doing our investigative work. He's like, I need the names of all your partners. You guys are all going to be investigated for this. So luckily, again, contacted my manager, said, please call the sheriff's office, show him what we've done. He comes out, he sees all the upgrades that we've done. I get the call, and this is where things started to turn around a little bit for me. Get the call back from him. He says, okay, we've done our investigation. You are not criminally negligent for this. I'm like, thanks. And he goes, what we've done is we've actually created a task force to patrol buildings that are having issues like this. And we're going to put you on this task force now. So 3 times a night. So what didn't do it during the daytime because they always came at night, right? It's minus 40 in Edmonton a lot of times. They're looking for a place to stay to be warm and do their drugs and sleep. And so at night, we would have a police officer who had a fob come through and double check the building. By then, we've done a lot of the upgrades. Again, fob system. You can just see like these like 1,400, 1,600, like we were getting those weekly, right? So it adds up fast. This is what the situation looked like a lot of the times. This was my front door, and you can see we'd put the plywood, and what do? They'd smash through the plywood so they can go through and unlock the doors. You can see them installing the new high security metal doors. Basically, we had to, all of the glass, sidings, we had to fully encase and redo the siding of. Here was one of the exteriors. There's the brand new door. Again, not really inviting, right? When you're trying to attract new tenants, and that's what your door looks like, it also, as much as you're securing the building, it also still made it more difficult to get tenants at a good, rental rate. So it compounded, right? So before I go here, this is where it gets almost unbelievable. We finally get the people out of the building, right? You could still see them trying. They would attack our heavy steel doors. There'd be little things, but luckily they were strong enough they couldn't. We had the little glass because we had to from a code standpoint. Those would still get cracked, but luckily there was mesh behind. They couldn't get through. So finally, we secured the building. So we thought. This is where the next thing comes in. We had in our back parkade a carport area that was covered. We had to actually, years ago prior to this whole situation, we chain linked it off, and we meant that we had to take parking away from our tenants. Now, luckily, most of them just took the local LRT and buses, so we didn't have to worry too much. We had a few exterior parking as well for those. But they started to, because they couldn't get in the building, they started cutting through that chain link, getting under. They found out that somehow, some way, they started ripping the ceiling out of the carport, found all of our copper piping. Okay, so some homeless broke into the parkade. They ripped out the ceiling, broke the copper pipes on the in the floor of the unit 7. Plumber has shut the water down in the area, and the boiler is down until Monday. Now, keep in mind, this was during the wintertime as well. So we had a water boiler system for our heat, and we had a whole weekend with no heat for our tenants. Now, luckily, that day it was only around minus 10, but still, it's still freaking cold. It's Alberta. After he fixes everything, we'll need to insulate, poly, and drywall the attempt. This is what the damage was. So you can see here where they cut the piping. Because again, they're looking for ways to quickly make a buck to feed the addiction. Again, you can see the water running here as it's coming out. So, all of the water just ripped out. I mean, that alone, we tried to get insurance to cover it. Insurance wouldn't cover this, unfortunately. This alone was a $30,000 bill. So, needless to say, over time, it finally got to the point where one of our partners kept still wanting to hold out because his belief was, if we just still hold out, maybe we'll recoup our money. And this is where I dug in. I said, listen, all we've been doing is throwing good money for bad. I've been liquidating some of my properties here just to cover the bills for properties like this. That's why I just said liquidating my properties here. Selling. Liquidating my properties here, selling. Oh, yeah. As a realtor, yeah. I mean, half of my income goes to the building too. So, I lived and worked for this building for 8 years. So, again, it happens. You guys, you're going to get into a bad deal here. The total loss we're looking at is about $750,000 on this. Now, the lesson to be learned here from this is when stuff starts going bad, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of my investor clients now all the time. If you're putting good money towards bad, it's better just to cut the loss, walk away with the loss while it's small, because it compounds. I've seen many, many investors who hold on for too long, and financially, it absolutely wrecks them. So if you guys get into a situation where the building is not performing as you think it will be, even if it's going to be a loss, walk away, because the money's already gone. You already put the money in. So, and I just had a conversation literally 2 days ago with an investor who's backwards on the mortgage right now. He's got a tenant in there paying $2,000. His expenses is $3,100. He can't continue to pay the $1,000. I gave him a price, what I think I can get the property sold for him. And he goes, I need an extra $70,000 on top of that to recoup I go, well, you can't. The market's not there. He goes, I'll have to wait until the market gets there. And I go, but you're continuing to put 1,100, so that's going to compound. How long are you going to wait and let your lifestyle deteriorate for that? So again, lesson to be learned, get out before it gets worse, because things always get worse. So that is my tales from the trench.
So where are you at?
All right, so I can't speak too much about it because we are being recorded. So if anyone wants to come and talk to me about what we've done to deal with this building afterwards, you can come talk to me afterwards. And if anyone's watching, you can message me afterwards as well. Just for legal reasons, I can't actually have it recorded. So, okay.
In hindsight, would you hire a security guard?
Well, we were looking into a security guard, but they were, luckily the police got involved into the patrol. So we ended up just letting our property tax cover that. But we were, if we were in the US, maybe. But yeah, we were looking into it. Cost of a security guard at night was about $200 an hour. So
You were saying all the investors were VC based, right?
Yeah.
So what was, I guess in hindsight, like what made you guys put so much money into that particular?
Well, the original reason why we went out there was because, we're like, hey, we can pick up a building for much cheaper than in BC, right? So that's the mentality. And a lot of investors think that way. Hey, I'm going to go to another province because it's cheaper to get into it. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get better returns, right? So we went there because we're like, hey, we can pick up this. We bought it for 1.35, I believe it was, back 8 years ago. Like I said, our liquidation is definitely not that high on that property. So the whole process was that, again, we start hearing the news and the investors, they get into the mindset of, I don't want to lose money. So if I don't sell it, I won't have lost money. So hopefully the market turns around. And that was one thing where I kept getting voted against, being a quarter owner out of 4. It was always a vote against me. Yeah. What's that? Well, yeah, she passed away, unfortunately. So yeah, that was 11 units. So anyways, the 2 other ones had a 75% because we made sure that it was 2 sisters. We made sure that we could have divided up her shares equally, but we said, no, it's best for the sister to take her shares because at the time she really wanted to make sure it stayed within the family. We didn't fight it, but it was actually not a smart move for her to take on those extra shares at the end of the day. She was a sweet lady. And there were several times where too, like I said to my other partner who we got involved with, I said, let's just, he was always wanting to focus on what the shares were exactly from a contribution. There were several times I said, no, I'm going to put in more because I don't want her to have to keep, at the end of the day, one of the things you got to realize too, is when you're raising capital or working with partners who have capital, you need to treat their money better than you treat yours. Right. So there's lots of times where I would get in lots of fights financially on saying, no, I'm going to put more money into this to make sure we're offsetting what she's already put in. Right. So and that was a bit of an issue too. Like that could be another lesson is, again, they already said it, pick your partners wisely. Right. So I'd done deals with some of them before. And but this one, when things went south. So, all right, let's talk about what's going on in the market today. And we're going to flip back over to the Lower Mainland because that is where I've been a lot more successful in my investing. Let's talk about it here. So housing market sales take lead from the cooler spring weather. We've been talking about it the last couple of months as we've been heading into this spring market. Things are really changing. And Kelly and I have had the conversation where I feel like the technical term, I'm going to coin it a technical term now. This is a new economic term quoted by Cameron Manning. I actually stole it from someone else. The market's frothy right now. Frothy. So what I mean by that is that there's certain areas of the market that are really moving and other areas that are still a little slower, and pricing is absolutely key. So depending what you're looking into, you could absolutely be competing in multiple offers right now, or you could be putting up a listing and sitting on the market for a couple of months at a time. So pricing is still absolutely key. We are seeing sales picking up though. So again, we like to look at 3 major components. And again, there's a lot more statistics that we could look at, but for today, we're looking at the inventory, which is supply. We're looking at the sales, which is demand, and the impact it has on the price. So here's where we're at with inventory. Now, as we can see here, we've had a pretty big spike throughout the springtime here, right? Last year in April, we were at about 8,678. We're currently sitting at almost 12,000 listings in the Greater Vancouver, 6,213 over the 4,122 last year. And Chilliwack is also up, but they're a smaller market segment. So we are definitely seeing the impact of several things. One, I've had several investors that have decided to start putting their homes up on the market, things like Airbnb. They're like, okay, I'm out. You've got people who are negative cash flow putting their properties up on the market. And you have sellers who are also in a situation where maybe they can't afford the payments now, and or they hear, hey, we're in the springtime market, rates might be coming down, I'm going to take advantage. So we've seen a huge spike in the inventory. And depending on the market pocket, and this is where we talked about it a couple of months ago, the market pocket that we're talking about, there's so many subcategories. There's no Canadian real estate market. Some pockets are getting more inventory than others. So it depends on where that property is, right? But when we look at the demand aspect, we are definitely seeing a similar curve here. You can see the spike in Greater Vancouver. Now, keep in mind, last month there was 2,816 sales, but there was 11,000 listings. So we still have a lot more inventory than we have sales, while we are seeing the sales trend increase significantly, especially, like I said, I mean, Chilliwack is not too much over last year. It's been pretty stable. Fraser Valley actually down a little bit over last year, but you can see they are coming up through the spring. But Greater Vancouver, that encompasses basically West Vancouver, North Vancouver, Vancouver, Richmond, all the way out to Maple Ridge, all of that in between. We're seeing a huge spike in those areas. And of course, what's the impact on price? Now, again, because we are seeing the more inventory, last month I've been showing a curve upwards, but as inventory continues to creep up above what we're getting in the demand, we are seeing a bit of an impact on prices. We actually saw a slight decrease in the prices over last month. So while we are on a bit of an upward trend across most of the categories, we're seeing that dip. So it's going to be interesting to watch, because in a month's, less than a month's time, what do we think might be happening? What are the rumors? Possibly the rates come down. Well, right, we'll see, right? Nobody can actually predict what the Bank of Canada is actually going to do, right? But a lot of the indicators are indicating, and a lot of the economists are saying there's a high chance it could come down. I'm not going to bet the farm on it yet. We'll wait and see what happens, but this is good to know. We want to look at these things. Inventory is spiking. Sales are also going up, but not at the same rate overall. And we're seeing that impact of the inventory increase on prices. All right, we're going to break it down here. So we're going to start from Chilliwack, move our way west. So we do see over last year a little bit of an increase, not huge. So Chilliwack sitting at 900,000, up 4.8 over last year. But here's the key thing. We see that 27% increase in the inventory. So that's going to put a damper if we don't see a significant increase in these sales. Townhouses are down slightly. Condos pretty flat, 1.7. All of them up. Townhouses not too much, 1.4%. Days on market is down, so things are selling faster in Chilliwack. So that's an indication as well that we're seeing maybe there's more people moving into the detached market. Again, you can still pick up a house for under $1 million. So, you don't have to worry about that 20% down. Condos, pretty affordable as well. Their days on market is down about a quarter, and townhouses sitting at just over a month. Abbotsford, again, pretty stable, not a huge change. And as we were doing this last couple of months, we were saying the prices were coming up quite a bit, but now we've seen that stabilization because we've seen the inventory increase. So up only 2.3% over last year. Inventory, though, 52.9. So we've got a huge spike in detached homes hitting the market, 16.5 on the townhouse, and up almost 50% again on condos. So a lot hitting the market, but the attached market still holding pretty strong in value over last year. Again, probably due to the affordability. We are on an average over $1 million. We're 1.3 in Abbotsford. So when we start looking at those market segments, people who have less than the 20% down are going to be more in the affordable category, the attached, right? Anything over $1 million, buyers have to have at least 20% down. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got to check with the mortgage broker, right? Unless there's a new program I don't know about. Mission market, again, it's up over 1.1 million. It is down slightly over last year, though. Inventory is increasing across the board, except for condos. Condos is down very slightly. Still not a lot of attached properties in the Mission market. Again, it's a very detached heavy market. A lot of people buy and live in detached. We are seeing that change, though. We are seeing a lot of development in that area. We've got a project we're going to talk about in a little bit. And townhouses down. But again, the one problem I do have with the stats here, though, is because of the lack of inventory. If you have an old 1970s building sell and not many new ones, that brings those prices up and down. So until we see a little bit more inventory as an average coming on, those will fluctuate quite a bit. So I do find it's better to follow the Abbotsford numbers as more of an indicator. They're close by, not 100% exact, but it gives you a better indication just because of the lack of inventory there. Langley, 1.7 million average, right, for detached. Their inventory is up 54%. Huge spike in the townhouse market, up 84%. It just shows how limited the inventory was last year. If we're up at 194, that's 84%. Slight increase there, slight increase on condos, and again, inventory increasing. Maple Ridge, slight decrease. They're still around 1.3 million, up in the attached categories. Inventory up significantly. Surrey, pretty similar story across the board. Huge spike in condo sales. I've got a couple of assignments on the market. It's a good point to bring up. Assignments. We are seeing in certain market segments like Maple Ridge, like Surrey, like a lot of these places that have had a lot of developments, we're seeing a lot of those assignments also hitting the market. Those are taken into effect here as the listing numbers because they are listings on MLS and they do impact that. You have a flood of people. Suddenly the building says, hey, you can assign. They bought it 2 years ago and they're like, holy crap, I can't close now because the rates are 7%. They're flooding the market. Whereas savvy investors who come to events like this, that could create opportunities because there's a lot of properties that are being sold just to get out from under it. Some of them are even walking away from deposits. Kelly, we had an agent we know in Mission who actually sold one and walked away from his deposit. So that means you're picking, lost $22,000. Yeah. So as investors, we might be looking at, okay, if they're willing to sell them for less than they bought them for or walking away from deposits, there might be some opportunities to get into some of these deals. And then they do close right away so you can get in. And if rates do start coming down and we start seeing prices go the other direction, but again, when you're buying these, have a holding plan, right? Make sure you know that you can hold on to them. All right, let's move to Vancouver. It's the first time in a couple of years I've actually shown a negative in the Vancouver market. Not much, 0.8%. Your Vancouver East area is still over $2 million. Hello. There we go. So still over $2 million. So again, we haven't seen the impact on interest rates as much in some of the more affluent areas or, Vancouver, more expensive markets, just because they're not as impacted with interest rates. Because if they're buying $2 million property, or if you're in Vancouver West at $4 million, you're buying that property, you can handle it, right? And again, the townhouse market 1.1, they're up 1.5%, and condos pretty decent spike at 12.6. But again, the inventory is increasing, so this is what's going to have the bigger impact on the values than necessarily the interest rates in markets like this. If you create more inventory than you have buyers buying $2 million properties, that could bring prices down a bit. Yep.
Like most of these slides, the listings have increased. Is there any particular reason you think that people are listing way more nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a combination of we had a lot of pent-up demand. People were holding back to see what happens. So it could be a combination of one, a lot of assignments in the condo market. Others are coming in because they can't afford the rates that they've been renewing at. So they're having to move, change. You've got investors who bought properties that are no longer cash flowing. So this Airbnb ban. So you've got it's actually a lot of different things that are impacting. So whenever we're looking at supply and demand, capital gains, that's a big panic. But, Kelly heard a great presentation. If you're not going to pay the capital gains if you don't sell it. So if you can hold on, don't sell it, right? So, I mean, really, people are panicking that they have to get out before the capital gains go up. But if you're cash flowing, if you're doing well, don't sell the asset. So really, it's just a combination. So when we're looking at inventory and demand, there's a lot of factors that go into each one of those categories. So we're looking at it from a bird's eye view, but you got to kind of think, okay, yeah, what are all those things that are impacting that? And on demand, right? What's impacting demand, right? We have more people saying, okay, I'm going to get into the market because if rates go down, they're thinking prices are going to go up. I better get in now. You've got immigration that puts pressure onto the housing market as well. So there's a lot of aspects that go into the demand. So you look at it from a bird's eye view, and then we really, as we work together building your portfolio, we're looking at those really small, we dive deep into the weeds, right? So that's your market update for today. So make sure, again, if you guys are having any aha moments, you want to post it to your social media, tag our team, Kelly Fry Team, and we're going to move into our keynote speaker of the night, so you guys can finally hear somebody else talk about me. We're gonna bring up Tim. Tim, again, is the sponsor for tonight, so round of applause for that. So Tim is a mortgage broker for Mortgage Architects, and before becoming a mortgage broker, he worked for 5 years in the technical sales, focusing on real-world problems for a wide variety of customers, which allowed him to bring a unique perspective to the mortgage industry. Outside of work, he is dedicated grappler with a black belt in judo and a passion for Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So don't make him angry, and you guys should be good. I'm going to give you this here. You can clip it on. There we go. And I will let you take it away.
Awesome.
No. I just got to the chiropractor today.
No, all good. I'm wearing the different clothes tonight. So yeah, tonight we're gonna talk a little bit. I'm gonna try and provide some information on reverse mortgages because I don't think they're that well understood, and they can be a good tool. So yeah, I mean, just talked about my background. There's me in my different clothes when I do those other things. But yeah, I have a mechanical engineering background, so I like problem solving and working with numbers. So kind of what we're going to go through, the basics of a reverse mortgage, how it's different from a kind of more standard mortgage, who the lenders are, kind of an idea on what the rates look like, some examples, penalties if you want to get out of it, some use cases, comparing a reverse mortgage to other options like a HELOC or a refi or a downsize, a new innovative product that's come out, and then some closing thoughts from me. I don't know if this is going to work. There's supposed to be a video in here.
Yeah, we could get the video to play, but I can
So
pull it on.
I did put that link there because I wasn't sure if that would.
Yeah, we were having problems.
Yeah.
No worries. We can do
No
this.
worries. There you go. There it is. Yeah. I like to show this video. Oh. Buy Shopify, yeah.
Which is that thing where your house gives you free money.
Nah, how could you be so stupid? Reverse mortgages are a total scam. Now, you need to call the bank right away and take that Mr. Potato Head back.
I can't. I wrote best spuds for life. Box. I almost love the box as much as the guy now.
We could lose our house.
Relax, Lois. Tom Selleck made a whole video about that for the wives wearing his signature short shorts. Hello, wives.
Okay, so obviously, I mean, Family Guy is poking fun at it, but that is a lot of the concerns that I get talking to people about it. You know, they think it's a scam or they're going to lose their house. So, you know, the first thing is it's not a scam. It's a real product, and you won't lose your house because you always maintain ownership of your house, and there's a no negative equity guarantee from the banks. But that doesn't mean it's a great option for everybody. There's pros and cons like anything. Something that my dad always told me, if someone gives you money, ask like, what are the constraints, like what's tied to that? So, you know, nobody's giving you free money. That doesn't exist. There are factors you have to consider. So we're going to go through a few of those. So how I like to describe it is a reverse mortgage is a financing tool for releasing tax-free equity that does not need to be serviced. So you can take equity out of your house tax-free, and you don't have to make any payments on it. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. It's only for people 55 plus who own their home. It's only for your primary residence, and it's not the cheapest debt out there, but for specific situations, it can work. So how does it work? So the lender will give you access to the equity in your house. It's a loan secured against the value of your property, so they'll register in first position. Regular principal and interest payments are not required. That's one of the kind of defining features of a reverse mortgage. You don't need to make the payments. You do always maintain ownership of your home. That's you're still the owner. There is a no negative equity guarantee, so you can't owe more than your home is worth. Because you're not making payments, you are still accruing interest, so the interest gets added to the balance over time. So your balance, if you don't make payments, your balance grows. You do have the option to make interest payments, which we'll talk about later, and I think is a good strategy. If you can have the cash flow, you actually make the payments, and then you the balance doesn't balloon on you. And the maximum LTV, so the loan to value, is 55%. But this is going to depend on your age and where you live. So starting at age 55, you can get about 25%. So, if you have $1 million home, you get 250,000 up to 550,000 as you get older. So the older you get, the more money they're willing to give you. So how is it different from a kind of conventional standard mortgage? Again, no payments required. And this next point is one of the ones that took me a little bit to wrap my head around. So because you're not making payments, you're never technically going to have it all the way paid down to zero. So it's not amortizing. And so you'll get a rate, you can get a 5-year fixed or a 2-year or 1 year, but it's not technically like you don't renew it, because if you have a 30-year mortgage and after 5 years you renew it and then there's 25 years left, and after 5 years you renew it and there's 20 years left, that's not really what happens. So the rate that you get is just kind of, they're agreeing to hold that rate for you for whatever period of time. And then at the end of that period of time, they'll reset your rate to kind of current market conditions and so on. But it's not amortizing. So that's just kind of the different, one of the key kind of differentiators. Because there's no payments required, this is the next point is also really key. You don't need to qualify on an income basis. So for anyone who's ever got a mortgage, you have to, hey, how much money do you make? Making sure you can pay it back. So for reverse mortgage, no payments are required. So you don't have to qualify on an income basis. So, the demographic for this 55 plus people who might be, maybe they only have a pension, you can't qualify for much mortgage for anything else. But if you have a house with lots of equity, how do you access that? This is kind of the way. Also, because there's no payments required, the credit is not really a factor. That you can, all across the credit spectrum, can do a reverse mortgage. The other thing, whatever loan to value you're approved for, you don't need to take it all at once, and interest is only charged on the advanced amount. So if you're in the highest age bracket, you get approved for that 55%, say on $1 million, 550,000. If you only need 100,000 for whatever you had in mind, don't take the other 450 because you're going to be paying interest on it. If you don't need it, take what you need because that's what you're going to pay interest on. So I'm going to come back to that point a few times because I do think it's important. So what are the options? Who are the lenders? So maybe heard of a CHIP mortgage, a CHIP reverse mortgage. They're kind of the original. It's home equity bank. They specialize in that. They've been around a long time. They're currently owned by the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. Equitable Bank, another big name in the space. EQ Bank, they're a publicly traded company, EQB. Bloom is the newest kind of entrant to the market. They've been around 5 or 6 years. But really the last year they've kind of, they got a big, I think, well, I asked them why. I was like, why am I hearing about you guys so much now? And they said, well, we did a big financing round and now we have a bunch of money to spend on marketing and other things. I was like, okay, makes sense. So they've started really entering the game, and it's made the other two more competitive. Both of the other two have waived their $9.95 fees. And I'm pretty sure it's because Bloom has become more competitive. So it's helping kind of everything. So rates. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what kind of rates look like. Each of those 3 lenders have different suites of products. They might have 3 or 4 products, and the rates kind of vary in each product. So I didn't want to bore you with all the different million rates, but this is a general idea to kind of give you an idea of where you're at compared to like a prime mortgage, right? So 5-year fixed, the lowest one you're going to see is 6.74. So comparing that to that's 5-year fixed right now, right around 5%. It's higher, and the variable is really not very good at prime plus 2.66, right? So the other thing to keep in mind when you do renew or you reset your rate period, there is no renewal fee, but they're not going to give you their best rates. They'll be slightly higher, which is annoying, but something to keep in mind. Okay, so I wanted to go through an example just to kind of try and understand how this works. So let's say you have a home value of 1.2 million. You get approved for 33% loan to value. That's 400,000. We're going to go with the 3-year fixed interest rate, 7.14%. We'll assume a home price growth of 5%, and you're not going to make any payments because you don't have to. And this is kind of not like a worst case scenario, but this is one end of the spectrum, right? So first year zero, you borrow, they give you 400,000 from your house. So you have 800,000 in equity, your home's worth 1.2. You can see here, this column, your home appreciates over time, but this column here kind of shows you how your mortgage balance grows over time. You know, I think most people here probably familiar with how compound interest works. When it works for you, it's amazing. This is an example of compound interest working against you, right? Your interest is compounding. So, you know, why you're paying so much interest in these years is you're paying interest on the interest that's accrued over time. And I think this is where reverse mortgages get the bad rap for being a scam or whatever. It's just people don't understand that the interest is compounding and it's working against you. It's totally legitimate, but this is how it works. And I like to do the math just to really paint the picture that if we take, you know, after 20 years, 1.2 million in interest will have accrued. And if you break that down on a monthly basis over 20 years, that's like $5,000 a month in interest over the 20 years. So it is expensive. You know, when the banks, when they try and sell this product, they focus on this home equity column, and they're like, look, you started with 800,000 and you end with 1.6. Like, you still have way more home equity than you started with, and you got the 400,000 in the beginning. All true, but you also have to factor in that your accrued interest is 1.3 million. So that's where I say it's not a solution for everybody, but there are some cases where it makes sense, and just really, I think it's important to understand how it works and what you are getting into. And I'll talk about some use cases where it does make sense to kind of go down this road. But again, if you pay the interest, which I'll show on the next slide. Yeah, and so I also wanted to work backwards just to kind of make it maybe the accrued interest a little bit more fair, is that if we take, because future value of money does not equal the present value of money, right? So if we assume 3% inflation, which, I mean, who knows what a fair inflation rate is these days, but if we assume 3% inflation over 20 years, the accrued interest is worth about $680,000 today in today's dollars. So just another thing to think about. Okay, we're good on this one? Okay, cool. So I now want to look at kind of the total other end of the spectrum, is if you do take a reverse mortgage, same exact everything, except you're going to make the monthly payments every month. This is a lot more like akin to a HELOC, per se, where you're going to service your debt on a monthly basis, paying interest only. So interest, the monthly payments work out to $2,380 a month. And so, you know, and this is kind of more of an investment scenario where if you can, you know, you're using 7.14% on the 3-year fixed. If you have a way, you're going to take the 400,000 and you're going to generate a return higher than that. I don't know, maybe you have a few private mortgage deals you're doing and, you know, getting 10 or whatever percent, then you're clipping the 3 and the interest is tax deductible. So that's a scenario where it can make some sense. And this is just showing your total interest paid over 20 years is $715,000 in future dollars, compared to if you let it accrue, it's 1.2 million. So penalties, so the cost to exit. So the idea of a reverse mortgage is it's for elderly people or seniors. You take the mortgage, you live in your house, you get to age in place, and, you know, when you pass away, the mortgage gets paid off, and that's kind of the general kind of idea of a reverse mortgage. But there's also use cases for using it as kind of shorter term money, or maybe you want to give it back early, or maybe you change your mind, whatever. So there are penalties if you want to exit. So this is like the exit cost. And it's kind of a graduated scale. So in the beginning, in the first year, it's going to be more expensive to give it back because the lenders haven't made much money on it yet. So they're going to charge you more. And the different lenders have different penalties. So this is something that I like to look at. None of these are great. They all have pros and cons. And so depending on the client and the situation, you know, depending when is most likely that they might want to give it back, we would look at and kind of see what makes sense here. But I like equitable if you're thinking maybe in the first 3 years, like it's a really more shorter term money, because it's 5 months interest, 4 months interest, and 3 months interest, as opposed to home equity, which is 5% of balance in the first year, and then 4% of balance, 3% of balance. There's no penalty when the last homeowner passes away. And if the last homeowner goes into long-term care, there's a 50% reduction of penalty. Also, like, there's no penalty after year 11 for Bloom. After year 5 for home equity, there's no penalty, but you have to pay it all back within 30 days of your anniversary date. So you have like 1 month a year where you can pay it back with no penalty, or you're paying 3 months interest. Equitable is there's no penalty, but you have to give them 3 months notice, which is essentially 3 months interest, because you're telling them and then you're paying 3 months interest. So it's, yeah, anyway, so those are the things. There's prepayment privileges. So if you want to pay down the principal, you can, under certain conditions. With home equity bank, it's 10% a year, again, within that 30-day window around your anniversary date. Bloom, there's none, which may change. They're a newer lender, and I've been bugging them about this. So, because their competition allows you to do it. And Equitable is 10% a year. So I think this is pretty important kind of information, especially, for investors, because I think there are kind of investment use cases for a reverse mortgage, and you're probably going to want to put it back and maybe, move it around a few times. So understanding this and what your kind of exit strategy and costs look like from a reverse mortgage is important. Okay, so some how people use it. So this is, I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. So debt consolidation. So using it to pay out an existing mortgage. For example, one client, he's an 81-year-old taxi driver, and he was still driving taxi like 8 to 10 hours a day. He had a home, he had a mortgage because he was a taxi driver. He had a alternative B-side mortgage on his place, and it was up for renewal. Like, what are his options? For him, it was the good option was a reverse mortgage. He no longer has to make his mortgage payments. So he doesn't have to drive taxi 8 to 10 hours a day to pay his mortgage. He still does it a little bit because he likes it, but at 81 years old, don't know how much longer he can actually drive a taxi for. So he's in a scenario where he's not going to be making payments. So the interest is going to be compounding. But for him, it made a lot of sense because he gets to stay in his home and he doesn't have to be out there on the streets driving taxi, that. So debt consolidation, good use case. Buying another property. So, if there's someone has a primary residence that's appreciated a lot, there's a lot of equity built up in it, and, you want a property by the lake or something like that, somewhere smaller, something that's maybe $400,000, you could do it all in cash potentially just from a reverse mortgage. Timing things, timing a move as well. So if someone's looking to downsize, and maybe they don't want to sell right away, they could downsize, use a reverse mortgage on their primary residence, buy what they're planning to downsize into, kind of move into that, see if they like it, and then, kind of dispose of the bigger place as it makes sense. Paying for healthcare costs. This is one that comes up a lot. I was approached by a client's daughter, actually. So he's elderly guy, again, around 80 years old, and lives in an apartment that he owns, but he needs kind of ongoing care from nursing and stuff like that, and he doesn't have the money to pay for it, and his kids don't really want to pay for it, and so he's like, hey, can we just do a reverse mortgage, have that pay for it, and then they don't have to handle it, and you can get the reverse mortgages, so they kind of like a draw, so you get it on a recurring basis, so set that up for him so he can have his kind of healthcare costs taken care of. Putting your equity to work. So, if you have investments and you want access to the equity in your property so that you can use it for something else. And then also, while your property still continues, you get to benefit from the appreciation of your property while putting that equity to work somewhere else. And then I have a few other ones on here. Renovations, if you want to increase the accessibility of a property. Living inheritance. This is something I see, a ton as a mortgage broker is parents or grandparents gifting funds to their kids or grandkids for a down payment on a property. And a reverse mortgage is one way that happens. Enjoying life. I had one guy at the trade show where I was talking to Kelly about this. He came up to me. He's like, yeah, I don't have anybody I want to leave my house to. he's like, I just want the money from it and I want to live in it. I was like, yeah, then reverse mortgage, like, that's great. Take out the money and go have fun. And, you know, who cares, right? So that's one option. And then, yeah, improving your monthly cash flow. And then, so there was this last one is kind of theoretical. I haven't done it. Something I've just been thinking about with this whole capital gains thing. And, you know, like you said, if you don't sell, you don't have to pay the capital gains. But there's a like super niche. And this is the kind of things that roll around in my head. So I get to share it with you all now. So it's great. So if you have a primary residence and then a secondary residence, and let's say the secondary residence, you know, vacation home, whatever it may be, you bought a long time ago and it didn't pay very much for it. It's appreciated a lot. And you're also kind of planning for the future. And it's like, hey, you know, want to leave this to my kids or whatever, but don't want them to have to deal with going through probate because that's expensive. I think it's like probate's like 1.5% or 1.8%, something a lot. So the solution to that is you put your kids on title. And so, you know, if you wanted to do this and get around the capital gains, you would do that before June 25th of this year. You put your kids on title of this other place, declare the capital, declare it, you know, realized or whatever before June 25th. So next year, tax time, you would have your tax bill where you have to pay the capital gains. Now it would be under the 50% inclusion rate. So it's still going to be a big number if you had like $1 million in appreciation, you know, 500,000 of that gets taxed at whatever, probably 50, 60%, whatever it is. So you have like $250,000 tax bill. It's less than if you did it later and 66%. Anyway, so how do you come up with the money for that? You could put a reverse mortgage on your primary residence to pull the money out to pay that. So anyway, again, super niche. Like, I don't think there's like a lot of people where that actually applies, but it's just kind of one of the creative things you can do with a reverse mortgage where it could help. And again, it's these things that bounce around in my head, and I'm glad I have people to share it with. So comparison. So like I said, it's, you know, I think the reverse mortgage, it's a good tool. You know, if you're only, what's the saying? If your only tool is a hammer, everything's a nail, right? But it's good to have different tools so we can kind of evaluate the right times and places to use them. So try to kind of build a table here. So the only time a reverse mortgage you can even consider it is 55 plus, you own your primary residence and you have enough equity. So that's kind of the base case. And some of us still have a few years to go. This is not, and also like the irony of me maybe being the youngest person in the room talking about reverse mortgages. Yeah, that's not lost on me, but it's, yeah, I get it. But yeah, but so that's what we're going to kind of look at here. So if you want to get equity out of your primary residence, what are your options? Okay, well, you can sell and downsize. You could refinance it. You could put a HELOC. You could do a reverse mortgage. So borrowing power, you know, reverse mortgage, you're going to have the lowest borrowing power, only up to 55% of the LTV at the oldest kind of age bracket. These next two, these two rows here, that's where the reverse mortgage becomes the option, is if the income qualification or credit qualification or making payments is an issue, then that's where the reverse mortgage really kind of shines. Because all the other options, you're going to need to stress test your income. You're going to need to do a credit, like have good credit, and you're going to have to make payments. Even if you downsize and rent, you still have to pay rent. Some other things to consider. So just the tax benefits, the proceeds when you take the equity out, it's tax-free. And then if you use that equity with the intention of earning a return, that interest is tax deductible. I mean, that's the same as a HELOC. Refinance kind of gets harder to show which, unless you do like a multi-component mortgage, it's harder to show which is being used for investment purposes. If you sell and downsize, there's a lot of kind of exit and entry kind of costs to think about. If you have a property, you don't just sell it and take everything and then just put that into something else. There's, you know, your realtor's commission. If you had a mortgage and you have to pay a penalty to get out of it. If you buy something new, you're gonna have to pay the property transfer tax. So there's some costs to think about there. The other thing with the reverse mortgage, there's no risk to losing your home if you don't make payments, because you're always on title. It's always your home. The other options, if for whatever reason you don't make your payments, they're going to come knock on your door. And with the reverse mortgages, there are setup fees, cost about $2,000, $2,500. But like I said, Equitable right now has waived their $9.95 setup fee till the end of the month, and there'll be promotions like that come back. But setup fees are costly with reverse mortgages. There's some prepayment penalties. So kind of comparing it to a HELOC, a HELOC's fully open, you can pay it off at any time. So those are kind of some of the pros and cons and how to compare them and what I would look at if someone was thinking about it. Someone's thinking about a reverse mortgage, kind of compare the other options and see, okay, well, why would you look at it? If you can qualify for a HELOC and you're okay making the payments, maybe the HELOC makes more sense, that sort of thing. But these are kind of the decision, the parts that I would think about when making that kind of recommendation. And then, other options on top of that, you could do a private loan, which would be kind of similar to a HELOC, but at a higher rate. You just put all the debt that you want on your credit card, or you could, liquidate your other investments, but maybe you're relying on the cash flow from those or dividends or whatnot. So I mentioned in the beginning, there's been some innovation. So this is the one cool product that came out, I think it was last month or the month before. So it's a home equity prepaid MasterCard, bit of a mouthful, but you can essentially spend your home at the at the grocery store. No, it's so it's accepted anywhere MasterCard is used. It's not a credit card. It's a secure payment card that's tied to your house. There's a monthly limit. It's about the standard is about $2,000, which resets every month. You only get charged the interest on what you use. So if you don't use it, you're not charged interest on it. And it can be used in conjunction with a typical reverse mortgage. Like say you get a $400,000 limit, you need $100 for a renovation you're going to do, and then you get this the MasterCard to kind of supplement your daily life kind of thing. That's totally doable. Or you can just get the MasterCard and not take a big draw. So that's kind of something cool. I haven't done one yet, but because it's like a month old, but I think it's neat, and I'm happy to see kind of innovation because I think that's always good. All right, closing thought. And there's more than one thought. I thought I had thoughts. Anyway, so it's reverse mortgages, not for everybody. You have to be over 55 first of all. And even when you're over 55, there's other things to consider. But for specific niches, for specific situations, can be a really good tool. Interest is only charged on the advanced amount. So only take what you need and what you're going to use because you're going to pay interest on all of it. If it's possible and you have a plan, pay the interest so it's not compounding like we looked at. And go into this with the end goal, have a strategy. Whether that's, a valid strategy is, hey, I'm just going to, age in place and I'm going to die in this home and that's the plan. Okay, good. But if that's not the plan, what's the exit strategy? Because we looked at the penalty chart. If you're only doing this for a year and you're going with Home Equity Bank, well, they're going to charge you 5% of the balance to leave in the first year. That's not really a good plan. So make sure there's a planned out exit strategy. The other thing is you can't take your equity with you when you go. That's what that one guy at the home show kind of made me think about. Sure, it may be expensive, but if you don't make the payments, but what is your other opportunity or option is you die and there's a great big house or, with tons of equity, right? So it's, you can't take it with you when you go. Now, there's a huge market for this in Canada. We have an aging population with lots of equity and, some of this looks pretty good from the bank's perspective when you look at it if people do not make the payments and the interest compounds, it's it looks pretty good for the bank. So, Equitable Bank's publicly traded. So that's something I'm thinking about. I'm like, actually, they could be onto something here. And I think innovation and competition is coming to the sector. Bloom's new, and I've already seen that kind of driving the rates down a little bit. Home equity, the MasterCard thing, and then the Equitable Bank waiving their $9.95 setup fee right now. So that's already just in the last little bit kind of made these all more competitive. So I think that's going to be good, and I'm kind of excited to see how this product evolves. It's really big in the UK, and it's bigger in the US. So are other places where they do more of it. Canada, not so much. So I think there's some opportunities for it here. And yeah, that's everything.
Excellent. We'll open it up to anyone questions anyone has. Kelly? And again, just repeat the question back just for the people online.
First one is, so if a person had a small first mortgage, could Bloom take that out and then take it to whatever percentage, 50% or whatever? So you pay out that first and then get all of it.
Yeah. So the question is, if you have a small first mortgage, could the reverse mortgage lender take that out and then register for and give you kind of the full amount? So let's say you had a 15% first mortgage and you're approved for 30%. The answer is yes. You could pay off that first mortgage, the 15%, and then you could get the other 15% in cash to do with what you like. And you don't have to take it. You can draw 10 grand at a time. You can set it up differently. That's some of their different products that they have.
Maybe.
Could you have that on second mortgage because your first mortgage probably has a lower interest rate? I know, but the first mortgage.
Yes. So it's a good question though, and so the question is, could you put a reverse mortgage in second position? The answer is no. The reverse mortgage needs to go in first position. There is no, like all the other big banks, there's no secondary financing permitted behind your reverse mortgage.
Can they only, I'm not gonna ask myself, but
Yeah.
can they only do one property at a time?
Yes. So the question was, can your reverse mortgage only be on one property at a time, and it has to be on your principal residence?
Yeah, but what I meant was you were like, you could buy a second property. So let's say if I live with that second property long enough, now that's my primary residence. You know what I mean? Like,
how can you hack the system?
Yeah.
Every year, if you moved from one person to another and you had one running on the first, could you do it on the second?
So if it's your primary residence, I mean, not with the same lender, because they're going to be like, how can you have two primary residences? I haven't come across it where doing it that would be my thing to check, is if it's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you can do that, and then yeah. Which I think that's kind of one of the great things about this product, is it gives you a ways to think outside the box. Because a lot of times that equity is just tied up, and this is a way, for people who are, over 55 and maybe on pension, and they can't qualify for any other ways. This is a way to get it out. So, any other questions? Yes.
So let's just say you have parents who are aging.
Yeah.
They turn to a reverse mortgage to fund the healthcare or
Mhm.
private care or whatever, and then they pass away.
Mm-hmm.
The beneficiaries, what happens then? There's this reverse mortgage on title. The beneficiary inherits this property.
Mm-hmm. So the reverse mortgage will get paid out immediately, and then
By what though?
we'd have to refinance it.
Or sell it?
You'd have to refinance it or sell it.
So the beneficiary would have to refinance it.
Yes. Yeah, because it has to get paid out, but there's no penalty to pay it out. So, but it becomes due and payable at the last homeowner. And there's a grace period where everybody is, you do need to, yeah.
It doesn't escape probate.
I wasn't thinking that. I was
Yeah.
thinking when it goes to the next generation.
How mechanically, how does it work? Yeah.
I guess a little bit to that, like some properties, they go through legal
Mhm.
battles or probate or whatever. Does the interest keep accruing until the beneficiaries do get decided, or it just stops when the person passes away?
So it's going to keep accruing until it's paid off.
Oh,
That
Yeah.
might take a year or years.
Yeah.
Probate, right?
Yeah. But you'd probably refinance it. Refinance it sooner.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, it
Anything
does.
in the
It
chat?
does. That is. It does get tricky at the end.
All right, awesome. Well, hey,
Yeah.
thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's definitely interesting. I'll grab that from me and that. It's definitely interesting to learn about, these different products, because it's not something that you really think about, especially as an investor, what's out there, right? That, could be tapped into. Now, my family has actual experience with this. My grandma had done a reverse mortgage years ago. Same thing, tap into her equity. She didn't have a big pension. She worked from job to job to job her whole life. So just really her just CPP pension. So this definitely helped her. And I mean, she lived until 95 years old. And I think she did it when she was in her early 80s. So it allowed her to live continually in her house and comfortably up until until she passed. So, all right, let's talk about a couple hot deals. We actually got 3 for you today. I'm going to have Kelly explain one. It's not actually available, but she's going to go through it to give you an example. First one, we talked about it last month. They are getting close to being able to start selling. So this is the Montgomery in the city of Mission. Pricing on this project is where it was 2 years ago. So there's some really good pricing in this complex right now, starting at $359,900 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and junior twos only at around $400,000. So some good pricing available in the Mission area. And again, for those who know me for a long time, I've liked the Mission market quite a bit, and they've been overdue for condo developments. They're screaming for affordable housing, and this also creates affordable rentals as well. So good opportunity to get in. $1,000 assignment fee plus GST, 5% down within 7 days, 5% after 90. Location of this property is actually quite ideal because we're starting to see that redevelopment of the Mission downtown area. So for anyone who's familiar with the downtown, you've got Highway 7 that goes right through here. You've got Murray Street there. Tim Hortons is right here for anyone who knows it. Project is right up here off of Horn and 2nd. And anyone who knows Ray Vaselli, who's a member here, he comes regularly. He's been building the 9-story towers right here. So massive redevelopment play right now in the city of Mission. And again, very attractive deposit structures. For this one, I'm actually going to bring Kelly up. This is a property her client just bought. So we wanted to give you an idea of what clients are buying right now in the market from a fix and flip perspective. So I'm going to just power this back on, give you this one. There you go.
He just told me about this right now. So
well, she said put it in the presentation. I said she gets to show it.
So I spent about 3 hours the other day looking for flips. I have a specific regular flipper who was looking for a product. And there's kind of this ranking on the team. If I find a good deal, it goes to my client. Then I give whatever's left over to Cameron or Lisa if they're not looking for their own clients.
Sometimes we beat her to it.
Sometimes they beat me up. In the old days, we could represent multiple people on the team, but now we're all designated agents for each client. So we can't even compete against each other.
Yeah,
anymore.
pre-2018, it was not uncommon to have Kelly and I go head to head with our clients. They don't let us do that anymore.
That's right.
So, well, and just a little side story, Kelly had beaten me 5 times in a row because I was still new, right? I was learning from the master. Suddenly, I start beating her time after time after time for these properties, and then they imposed the law where we can't compete against each other on the same team. So we'll forever be held at 5-3. Kelly wins.
So this particular one turned out to be one of the 2 favorites that my client liked. And it's convenient. They like its POCO. And my client, the husband who does a lot of the renos, he liked the idea that it's not too high up because he's got to bring all his materials up. So nice size 1-bedroom, 748 square feet,
Definitely
built
nice
in
size.
93. It was a hoarder property. And the carpets were very dirty. Now, the funny part about this is the agent on the listing is someone I know quite well, and she sells very beautiful big properties. So she was very uncomfortable with this property, which is quite humorous. So the sales to active ratio, I studied the stats for my client, is 47%. Now, when it's at 12%, that's a balanced market. As soon as you get over 12% of listing selling, it starts to become seller's market.
20.
Once you get over 20, well,
20
12 to 20, it starts to move, but prices start to move over 20. So 47% is excellent because the flipper's first concern is, will we be able to sell it? So median selling price, $842 a square foot. I calculated the estimated profit for them. I figured if we could get it for about $450, it would sell for about $550. These flippers are very skilled. They do beautiful work, and we always beat the market when we take their product to market. I calculated transfer tax, the buy side of the legal. I got the adjusted cost would be $460. They told me about $30,000 for renovation because he knows his numbers for condo, townhouse. He doesn't do detached, just condo, townhouse. Calculated the real estate commission, the legal on the resale, and I expected that we'd have a profit of about $36,000. If we had to pay $455, it would be about $31,000. Now, I didn't realize they were going to use their HELOC for most of it, so I forgot to factor in that interest. They figure it's about $7,000. He thinks it's going to take him 3 to 4 months to get it finished on the market and sold, which I think is realistic. One of the things he told me, which I thought was interesting, is he wants to see if the wall in the kitchen is load bearing here. And he can't really find that out until we take possession. He can go in, take measurements and that, but to order the kitchen he's going to lose 6 weeks. And so he needs to know that to order the right kitchen size, but he can start right away without getting strata permission on the bathroom and other things. Right? So that's the estimated profit. And one of the things that was key on this was I said, okay, it started off at $498. She did a price reduction to $470. So I asked her, oh, is there a motivation on the seller's part? And she said, well, no, we just dropped it $28,000. So I thought, okay, she's going to be a little tough on this. How are we going to get it down? So we went in subject free, which of course they have a big line of credit, big HELOC. So I knew that subject free would be the only way we were going to get this. Big deposit and a 2-week closing or less. So we were at the REAG meeting actually, and she came back at $460 because we offered $450. And then I said, well, we'll see what the client's willing to do. I said, okay, he's willing to go to $455. And so then she caved and we got it. So that's the end of the story.
Excellent. And Kelly, I'm just going to get you to stay up because I want you to talk about one more thing that I'm blindsiding you on, but that's okay. All right, we got one more to show you. Those of you guys who joined us when we were at the public library there when we had to host the meeting there that one time, right? So we had Herb Locke come out, spoke about a project he's working on up in Terrace. So he's got to the point where now he's looking to start marketing the houses already. So he sent me the numbers, asked me to show it to you guys. So I'm going to show it to you guys here. This is the Terrace Tweedle 6 single family project. These are his 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, and they already have contracts going in with the LNG to rent these. So you're getting stable rent from LNG. This is what it looks like. Purchase price is around $714,990, mortgage at 80%, property tax, everything. You're looking at a total, sorry, I'm trying to look here. Where did you put the rent? I think our graphics guy, oh, down there. Okay, income. So he reversed it on me. So you're looking at around $5,890 a month in rent. And again, that's guaranteed rent from LNG. When you factor in... Signed right away. Signed right away. Yeah, 3-year term, I think. 3-year term, yeah. And so when you factor in all your expenses, you're looking at around a cash flow of about $722. So it's a pretty stable, strong cash flow, good return. Hard to find that in most BC markets nowadays. So these are also going to be brand new construction as well. So keep in mind, these are not even built yet. They're in the construction process right now. So total return on investment, you're looking at around 43.97%. Pretty good for a BC property. Okay, that is our hot deals for the week. We're going to wrap things up. We got a few QR codes coming your way. So if you want to whip out your phones, you can join us here. First and foremost, you can join us on our social media. So huge shout out to Jordan, our content creator, for always keeping things updated on our social media. So you want to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube specifically. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming out on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow us there. I'm going to give a pause to see a few people scanning. And then... just make sure Alejandra's looks like, I don't know if she's trying to grab it or not. All right. Again, if you guys want to watch the replays from this event or any of our past events that we had, you guys can go ahead and follow my YouTube channel, specifically Cameron Manning, youtube.com/Cameron Manning, or scan it here. Under the live tab, you'll find all the past replays. So if you heard a speaker that you thought, I really want to watch that again, really absorb it, or you want to share it with someone who you think it might impact, you can go ahead, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well, because I do put a lot of other content on there to educate and teach all the investors out there on what's going on in our market as well. And this is something that I wanted to keep Kelly up here for. We've been working on a real special project here. This has been very secret. This is the first time we're actually talking about it. And actually, Jordan, I'm going to get you to maybe pop the camera down, join me up here as well. So he doesn't know about this either. So over the last couple of months here, we recently made it into the top 1% of agents in the Greater Vancouver market. So it's been, thank you. It's been a long journey trying to get to this point. Kelly's been working on this since she got started 12 years ago. I've been working with her for over 10 years now. And as of 2023, we're officially in the top 1% of all Greater Vancouver agents. And, you know, we decided to do something special to kind of commemorate this for ourselves, being this decade-long achievement. And Jordan here helped us out with this, and he's put together an actual feature film documenting our journey. So, give a round of applause for him. This is fantastic. So I'm the only person who's actually seen it, and I am like, my jaw was on the floor. I said, okay, we need to do something special for this, because this is not just like a quick. I said to Jordan, I said, yeah, you know what, let's shoot the event, because we have a big gala event. We took some content from the last year, and I said, yeah, put it together, do a recap of the year, celebrating it. And he took my concept of that and absolutely blew it out of the water, to the point where when I watched the first cut, I said, we can't just throw this up on YouTube and say, hey, it's done. So we're actually planning to do a full-on premiere. So the tentative date right now is June 13th. We're just trying to lock down the location right now. We'd love to invite everyone out to the premiere of this. If we get the location I'm thinking of, it's going to be a pretty spectacular location. It's going to be a fun evening. And Jordan put us a little trailer together, so I'm just going to play it here now.
Loyalty and integrity are very important to me. I don't think people realize how much is involved in getting that deal to the finish line.
The fact that we reached the top 1% is an incredible feat. That's something Kelly and I have been working on for nearly a decade now.
Of course, many people are quite concerned for their children being able to own real estate in the future because of the cost of housing.
Hundreds of Maple Ridge residents displaced after a massive fire spread at a construction site overnight.
Last year wasn't without its issues. There's no going back. This is a level that the bar has been set, and we have to continue to set it every single year. Because if you want to join a top 1% team, we are ready to take other agents with us to the top. Woo! So we're super excited. I think Kelly hasn't seen much of it. I think for even some of our team members, that's the most they've even seen. We've been kind of keeping it hush-hush for everyone. So June 13th, keep your eyes out. We're going to lock down that location. That's the target date. And we're going to have a fun evening. We're going to have popcorn. We're going to make it theater style. And it's just going to be a blast. We're going to be probably somewhere in Vancouver. Over on Pandora Street is the hope. We've got some clients in the film industry with some studios. So that's a little bit of a hint if that works out. Again, it just depends. We can't kick another production out, though. So that's that. Also, we have an exciting event happening here. This is great for families just to come out, have some fun. We've partnered last year, and we're doing it again with Rocky Point Ice Cream. They're a very well-known Tri-Cities ice cream. They've actually expanded quite a bit over the last while. They're going to be bringing out their ice cream truck, and we are buying everyone a pint of ice cream, or not a pint, but a cup of ice cream, as well as we're going to have lots of different games, events. Huge shout out to Harman for sponsoring. He's one of our platinum level sponsors. And it's just going to be a fun event. We're going to have lots of games. It's going to be hopefully sunny that day. We did it last year. It was a ton of fun. So if you'd like to come out, scan that ticket there or shoot me an email. There is still tickets available to join us for that event. I think right now we have nearly 1,800 or 1,900 tickets registered for us. So this is a big community event that we do. So it's, last year was a huge hit. So we had to make sure we do it again. We'll figure that out. We get all the landlord owns the properties next door, so we've got all their parking too. So, all right, and of course we have our Facebook community, which is part of our Investors Performance Group. Again, this is a great opportunity to join us online, connect with other investors, post deals that you have. If you're looking for capital, post your deals every single Monday. I've been a little bad at it recently. I think I need to change the time because I keep getting pulled away. We do a Monday morning market update as often as I can. One thing with that is you get more of a boots on the ground live, what's actually happening week by week, play by play. So the benefit of that is you don't have to wait for a month to be able to come in and hear me talk about what's happening. So come join us on the Facebook group. And lastly, join us on meetup.com. You can either do one or the other, just so you make sure you keep up to date with what's happening. That is the wrong date. Jury put the wrong one there. So it's actually June 20th. So don't put that date. June 20th is the actual date we're going to be back here. That was for the documentary. That's not for our next IPG meeting. So June 20th, join us on Meetup, join us on Facebook. That's it for me tonight, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. And for those guys who are on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us live as well. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, like this, drop some comments, and of course, we hope to see you out live if you can make it out one of these days. And Sid, go ahead and end the session.